బేసిక్గా ఇట్లా స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాం ఏదో ఒకటి మాట్లాడుతూ
Right.
అరే ఓకే
So we use that bit as the intro, and then the logo comes in, and
makes
then
sense.
atla.
ఇదంతా నువ్వు చెప్తుంటే అది ఇట్లా అట్లా
Other yeah, background voice over.
సరే తెలుగు నుంచి తప్పుకుందాం.
Yeah.
చలో we'll start off.
Let's go.
So today's podcast we have Rushil and Mihir. So Mihir has come all the way from Nashik to Hyderabad. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming, Rushil. So
All the way from
Gachibowli. Still a long way.
yeah. So Mihir here has 7 years of experience coaching athletes. He has done his masters in sports sciences and PG in sports management. And Rushil here has 8 years plus experience coaching general population. He specializes in deadline oriented transformation.
Yeah.
Crazy. And yeah, he has done his masters in ISSA.
It's not masters, it's my
Certification, yeah.
per se,
Certification.
but yeah. My education came from ISSA when it comes to fitness, because that was the first thing that was available in India per se. We didn't have much options when I started it out.
But what is deadline coaching?
Deadline oriented goal or coaching is anything where a client has a limited amount of time to achieve their fitness goals or to make a transformation. It can be for an actor who has a role coming up in X amount of months or weeks, and could be somebody who's getting married who wants to look the best on their, the big day. Anything and everything that, or for somebody who is just fed up of being fat and they just give themselves 90 days and I want to do this in 90 days. Anybody who thinks every day is more valuable, or slightly an approach while you train them will change, because every workout, every meal plan, everything matters
a lot.
till that date. Yeah.
Right.
But in that coaching, like, is it like an integration of hypertrophy, functional, everything?
Can you
Everything.
explain like how that training works? Like, let's say I come to you and I give you a deadline of 90 days
Right.
because of I have a event or something.
Correct.
Like, yeah. So what if I don't have a realistic goal? Will you be telling me straightforward like this is not possible, Bolki, or will you still try to work around it, or how does it go?
Because now when somebody comes to me with this sort of a goal that they have to achieve in given set days, one, as you said, being realistic is very important, and understanding where they're coming from. Now, are you fat? Are you skinny? Now, what's your goal? Training somebody who's fat to being lean is something. From somebody being skinny to being muscular is another thing. You'll have to work on two different spectrums, and also understand how willing the client is committed to the program itself, because no matter how good the blueprint is, you still have to lay down the bricks. So first, I would feel them out in terms of their commitment level, if that is realistic or not.
Yeah.
Once that is realistic, these things will fall into place. Because I might say half a kilo fat loss or 1 kilo fat loss per week is what we are targeting, but that's on paper. Unless I've worked with the client, I've put them through the protocols that I have been practicing and I've practiced on my clients, we really don't know what would be the rate of fat loss or muscle gain till we at least do a solid 21 days. Now, initially I would say I need 21 days to a month where I can give you more realistic approach. But I can say, okay, this is the targeted amount of fat loss you can expect every week going forward.
Right. After the
Makes
first
sense.
month.
So the
After the
first
first
21 or whatever that duration is like an assessment.
Sort of a thing, to feel the client out, to understand any other limitations they might have. If it's women, they have more hormonal things to keep in mind, the monthly cycles, any PCOD related issues. Or if it's a guy, it depends how bad or good his lifestyle is. Somebody who's a couch potato, hasn't worked out in a while, will be harder to train mentally and physically as well, whereas somebody who's been working out and then they need a more guided approach. I've been working out for a year but I don't see any results. That guy is really committed, he's desperate. It would be easy for us to, you know,
Push him
through and get him a blueprint and put him in a direction. Whereas somebody who's not, first we'll have to gauge his mental limitations. How hard is it for him to get to the gym, forget everything else? And once the workout is done, is he going to take care of himself going home, or is still going to eat junk, just lie down, not stretch, not have water, not get enough sleep? A lot of factors that go into it. So to answer your question short, I would like to take all the information that is very generic from what do you do in a day and what are your health issues, do you have your blood work done, because I can give you the best diet, the nutrition, you follow it as well, but let's say your test levels are low, you're not going to see results. Your cortisol is high, you're not going to see results. Your sleep is off the table, you're not going to see results. So we got to ensure all these small components come together to give you a right perspective of what your transformation is going to be.
And like if we're talking about anything goal oriented, so like my thought process is like the client should trust the trainer, because that's the first most parameter. So in that tenure, like what are your thoughts on like how do you build that trust around those clients within that short span of time? Because like you said, you need at least 21 days to understand, and which is a like generic timeline. So how do you deal with that trust issues? Because initially, because you already have a deadline of let's say 90 days, which is just 3 months. So first you're saying that you need 21 days to assess them. So like how's the approach?
So trust wise, it has to be everything that you understood from them, they need to understand from you. Like you understand that the client has some motivation issues or binge eating issues that have been linked to his stress eating from his work. You need to give him a clarity that these are the things that we need to fix first. If you have a 90-day goal and that's not something that you need to kill at, give yourself 120 days. You need a little more extra work. You take your time. Don't rush so that you'll run so hard and fall short. Rather, take your time, start learning to walk, and then you can jog, and then maybe start running. So I think the best way to build trust with somebody is to be honest and give them upfront do's and don'ts and weaknesses and strengths. And I think that's where they feel, okay, in my experience, any trainer, I know it's crappy, but just to get a buck and just to not let the client go, they will say, yes, sir, it's possible to do in 30 days. In 60 days, we'll do this. But they'll be nowhere close to that. You might need 6 months. Nothing will happen in 60 days. Who's obese, especially. So give them realistic expectations. Be honest with them, and also give them a blueprint and a foreseeable plan for them to look forward to. That keeps them exciting.
But then again, at the same time, we should not overburden the clients with stuff which they cannot, like, entertain, and like they eat their brain basically.
Absolutely. I think the best way to do that is feel the client out, see. So you have two clients, right? One guy who just trusts you blindly, is paying you, and he doesn't want to know anything. I'll come here, you train me, I'm going to go do my work.
Completely dependent on you. Then there's another person who's very interested in understanding, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? What happens if I do this? So you got, both are really interesting clients to deal with. One, you need to have everything prepared in your head. The other person, you need to be instinctive and intuitive, that he might ask anything. Both are challenging in their own ways. I agree. Nice. So let's go back in time. I want you to just share your experience. Like, when is the first time you hit gym? What made you, go to the gym? Or like, were you physically active as a child? Like, what made you incline towards this industry in the first place?
Well, as a kid, I was always active. I was all over the place. I tried almost 10 different things as a kid, all the way from gymnastics to cricket to karate to skating. The typical kid who makes his dad buy all the gear and just goes to the class for a month. And you can say I've been all over the place. So I've always been active, wanting to do something. but I was not sure what was for me. And then once I got into my adolescence, my teenage is where, of course, like all teenagers, there were a lot of distractions, and I, deviated college. I used to be immersed with my own classes. And that's when I got a brief period of break from any sort of activity. The most I've done in terms was playing gully cricket. But
everyone.
yeah, other than that, I think again, once I got to engineering is when I got a little more conscious, because I was an obese kid, fat kid per se. Then once I got to college, I got conscious that, oh, you need to look a little leaner, and I started starving myself, and I started running like crazy, and I just lost weight. It was not healthy. And I was quick to realize, no, this is also not looking nice. I look very malnourished, and I need something. I don't know what. So I see people with buffed up physiques, and it's like, let's hit the gym like anybody else. And that's how I decided to start training, purely to look good in a t-shirt.
Right.
But me being myself, and I'm extremist, I like to do things, take it to the end and see how it goes. So I just spiraled into the fitness world, gave a little more of myself into it every day, and I learned more. As we've discussed earlier, there was not much in terms of information back then. Pretty much anything you need to learn or know, you go to the biggest guy in the gym and ask him questions. Not a good idea usually.
True, man. I still remember the first time I ever entered my gym. This was back in Chennai. That's when I got serious about gymming and all, during college. So I saw this guy from the back, and he had like crazy ass body. Now I know for sure that he was on rides. Back then I was like, oh my god, like he was a superhero to me, and he was saying all kinds of bullshit like you have to eat egg whites like 12 a day, not a single yolk and all crap. Like,
to add to that, I actually was about to share why I started to get my own information, because I went to such person, and I was just usually drained out during my workouts. Like anybody, you don't eat much and you do more. So typical gym bro thing when you start out, a noob mistake. So he told me to have a big a bottle of whole milk, couple of bananas, nuts in it, almonds in it. I was like, wow, sounds tasty and sounds very nutritious. So I started having that. This one fine day, it was my leg session. I was nauseated. I was in the washroom puking, and I realized, okay, it's not a bad suggestion, but how I took it was bad. So there's a lot more that goes into it. So then I realized I need to understand why this happened. I wanted to get more. Education on nutrition.
Right,
because I knew nutrition is a very important thing. Without that, you're not going to see results. So I started doing my own research, and then I realized there's something called blood nausea. Your gut needs blood to digest food, and I'm also sending it to different places during my workout, so it just gets confused. You get nauseated.
Right.
That's the phenomenon I had. So I realized, okay, then if not that, what else can I have? Then okay, these are the things that need to be gut light, like a whey protein isolate, or maybe some electrolytes. If you need muscle function electrolytes, if you need a solid meal, eat it 1-2 hours prior your workout or after your workout, not during the workout. So these small things might seem small now, but at that point of time, there was golden information to me.
The awareness was so much like
It was
less.
very less.
Yeah, because at that time, though these are small things, but still they are very important. And if you fuck that up, it's
Absolutely. And I also realized not a lot of people, just like I was, they don't either put too much mind into it or don't have time. Things that seem basic to me, like whey isolate versus egg protein versus a chicken protein. For them, protein is protein. They don't understand the bioavailability of the protein is different, the amino acid profile is different, the digestibility is different. Some things are better eaten like far away from workout, something like a red meat. You don't want that sitting in your gut. Whereas you might have a protein shake an hour ago, but now you're hungry again. So timing matters. Very small things, but these are small pieces of puzzle that you need to put together very articulatively.
true that.
So, what would you suggest for a general public who do fitness for healthy reasons or to look better, have their physique goals and all. So how do you think their nutrition should be like? Like, what are the do's and don'ts, basic key pointers, if you had to tell them, what would that be?
Of course. The word you've used, basic, is the key here, because there are so many protocols that you can apply on yourself, and almost everything works if done rightly. But when people start out is when you need the most simplicity of things, because at that point of time your body is still not used to any sort of anything. Is like a high-end protocol to it. Even just adding protein to your diet is like a shocker to it, because us being Indians, our diets are usually low in protein. Now you add 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that's like, wow, your body is gonna love you for that. And you're going to see gains like nothing, especially if you're starting out. We have something called newbie gains. No matter what, you are going to grow. And why not capitalize on it and just stick to the basics? Eat your fiber. You got to eat a lot of protein. You need fiber for assimilation. Eat your fiber, soluble and insoluble both. Fruits, veggies, sleep, water on time, sleep cycle, stretches, recovery pe dhyan do. Like, how are you recovering between your workouts? Are you too burned out? Some people don't want to take a day off, but it is also important. It's also part of the program.
Right.
Some people train too less or too often. You need to know the very basic things that work for you and stick to that for as long as you can. It's like, riding a bike, right? You first know how to balance on 2 wheels, then you can get it up on 1 wheel. Yeah.
Understood. So basically, you suggest whatever is sustainable for a longer period.
Sustainability is what is important, because when you say diet, I don't like the term, because that implies that you're doing some sort of magic with your food and it's some sort of a gateway to your ultimate physique. It's not. Your diet is what sustainable eating is.
Right.
And also, most importantly, I think it's the compounding effect that you get with consistency, rather than going for like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And everybody's body is different, and your prime hits you different. As I said, I was trying out different things, protocols when I started out, and I didn't see much results. But my prime started to hit me around 3.5 years. Prime matlab, my body started to see results, and there was a bicep vein on my bicep for the first time. I saw my first 2 abs. So then you understand, okay, certain things work, certain things don't. Your lifestyle might not support it. Keto absolutely works, but most people do it wrong. They think low carb, high protein is keto, which is not. You got to be very high on fat and even lesser than normal on your protein intake. That's when your body goes into ketosis. Yes, but even if you do that, how sustainable is it? Are you a socialite? Are you into events a lot? Do you need to mingle with people? Do you need to eat with them? Then keto is not for you. So what applies where and what works best for you can only be found out when you stick to the basics for a while.
Makes sense. Get the basics right and then try fancy stuff.
And understand your body first.
Correct.
Like how it's reacting to everything that you're experimenting with.
Exactly. And I think your body will take time to read and understand certain things, because when you start a program, nutrition or workout, as I said, the 21-day rule, it's a very generic number, but 3 weeks is where your body will adapt to some sort of protocol, and from there is where your actual progress starts.
Nice. Interesting. I heard this 21-day rule. Like, is this just, does this just apply to fitness and fitness related stuff, or like any skill for that matter? Because
any skill, I feel, they say it's a study. It's not a solid number that you go by. It's a study done in various groups where it can be applied to rehab as well. People trying to quit smoking. They say go 21 days without smoking and you'll
find it easier.
You'll break it. Okay. But I've seen people who quit for a month and then
they're back at it.
So it's not like a protocol that works at 100%, but it's like saying, hey, 90-day transformation. Might not happen in 90 days. It might take 120 days, but it's like a timeline that you give yourself,
At least it motivates you.
Yeah,
Acha,
it's like
21 days hi to hai,
हाँ.
like why not give it a shot?
it's like a small milestone
Right.
when
yeah.
you start something.
Get it. Makes sense. So you were saying that back then when people or we didn't have enough resources to learn stuff about fitness and stuff. So what were you mostly dependent on? Like, did you read books or internet? Where did you get your
It's
knowledge from?
all over the place. I actually remember reading stuff from very random articles and forums that was just purely written by meatheads and bodybuilders, and also WebMD, which was a forum for medical stuff. So I don't know how, I don't remember it now, but I understood endocrinology also plays a lot of important role in the body as per se, because there was this bro science that you should not masturbate if you want to preserve muscle. So of course at that point I believed it, but believing that, I wanted to understand why. It's like, what does that have to do with this? Then I realized, testosterone, it's a hormone. Then is it the same for women? No. Estrogen, it's a different hormone. Okay, 2 hormones, sex hormones are good. Now what about, there was this one day where I was really trying to cut and my appetite was so low, I was not hungry at all, but I was barely surviving on 1200 calories. And I'm not seeing any results. And I've been on the cut for like about 2 months now. I was like frustrated. I just wanted to quit. And I did. I went to Dunkin' Donuts when it opened first in Hyderabad. I hogged on a 12-piece box. I was like, screw it. I'm going to go back on bulk tomorrow. I wake up and I see myself dry, ripped and, leaned out. I was like, why? Then I did some research. Then I found out there's hunger hormones called ghrelin and leptin that get suppressed, and they suppress your metabolism. But once your body thinks you're not trying to get a six-pack, it only knows survival. So it thinks you're stuck in a desert or somewhere, and it goes into a survival mode, and it stops all bodily functions, reproductive, fat loss, muscle gain, everything. Now those donuts send signals that, no bro, you're not dying, you're good, you're getting some sugar. Reignite yourself.
I think that this is the same concept of cheat meals also, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Model, right?
But how the body works, like how you just explain it, that is something that most people don't have access to, like that information. Yeah.
Again, it's all
But
interest.
it's crazy if you're learning through your own experiment. Then that stays with you
For a fitness
forever.
trainer or any strength and conditioning coach, I believe that whenever you write your programs or anything, apply it on yourself, and then you would be able to coach better. Then you will be able to give the results much more better.
Completely.
So
You become a better athlete and a coach at the same time.
yeah, exactly.
So they say practice what you preach.
Yeah.
It truly does apply. And slightly off topic, I've seen a lot of trainers that are fat, but they know a lot of science. But what's the point? Especially this, I realized like a few days before itself. So because of my busy schedule now, I'm unable to train like I used to before, 6 days a week. I'm only getting 3 sessions in. But on those 3 sessions, while doing something, because I'm also simultaneously training 8 people a day, and I go through their training every day, there are certain things that I actively or passively think about of how can this client, today they did a leg session, they were not feeling it in the Bulgarian split squat. Was it the height? Was it the leg position? Now I was doing it myself, and then I realized, okay, he's got longer limbs than I do. Of course, the height should be varied. It's a very small thing. Now, if I'm telling this here, it's like, bro, it's a very simple thing. But at that point of time, there are too many things that you need to keep in mind. True. So you need to practice, especially on a daily basis, to be more indulged in improving your clients' workouts or even your workouts.
So in the US, like what you mentioned, like if a trainer is fat and stuff, so in the US, whenever they go for a strength and conditioning job or a fitness trainer job, they give a specification like you'd be able to lift this much of LBS and then you are qualified, because they don't want someone who cannot lift. They are supporting someone for 120 kgs and they cannot lift even 30 kgs. So that's a disaster for them. So that's crucial. Like trainers need to know what they are training and how they are training by training themselves first. So yeah.
Now I completely agree with this concept, but back then I didn't believe in this. Like as long as he has the knowledge, I think he'll be able to teach me. But now I really believe in the concept that when you're teaching someone, let's say you're making your client do a Bulgarian split squat. In your head, you should be doing a Bulgarian split squat in your head and trying to assess
Correct.
like
Yeah.
if the same feel is being there or not.
100%.
Yeah, so that way I think we end up coaching also a little better, and we end up liking the coaching also a little better. So
Now,
that's
when you
that.
just teach just by theory, you're giving them blatant science. A different example. There's this one life coach I've met. So he wanted to integrate with us to create a sort of a package where it's not just he's a trainer as well.
So
Not
what
just-
does life coach mean?
Like
like pretty much guiding you on simplest of the things to most complex things,
Like philosophies and
philosophy.
stuff,
I don't know what to do with my
Mental health
life.
and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm confused. I need to do this decision. Should I go for masters? Should I start a business here? Like how
Right.
somebody who understands your life and coaches your decisions or helps you make better decisions.
Basically, father not doing a great job. So yeah,
Sort
need a
of.
new
No,
father.
no, but actually what they do is, Gautam, so for example, let's say if you're going through a breakup, most people tell you that you should move on, right? So they guide you, I mean, what should you be doing to actually move on?
Correct.
Things like that.
Correct. So they give you a practical approach to
Yeah.
therapy. It's not therapy, but it's more practically applicable. But this, coming back to the topic, this life coach, I wanted to, see if possibly I can work with to give him some clients, and those especially who have binge eating issues or lapses of uncontrollable. There's something called bulimia nervosa, where you eat and you don't want to get fat, so you just stuff yourself with fingers and you just puke it out. It's a disease.
It's a disease.
So
yeah.
you need somebody to get you out of that loop. So I thought, okay, for these kind of clients, why not have somebody? This will also add a niche to my business. So I asked him to guide me as well. I gave him some insights of my life for him to be a little more indulged in guiding me. But what I understood is whatever he was saying, it felt like I was reading a book. So his approach was really good, but someone like me, I need a touch of personal sense of being, right?
You mean you need it to be more intimate?
Yeah.
Like on a more personal level. Like
Personally, like for example, when I tell you, okay, I'm going through this, rather than giving me book-based, things to do, maybe empathize, maybe understand, maybe just tell me what you would do, knowing that book knowledge from your perspective. Put yourself in my shoes and
Right.
tell me what to do. Don't just tell me what you read. Same thing goes to fitness trainer as well. When you say do a bench press, it's like, sir, back arched, chest up, shoulders tucked in. Your limbs are not the same as his. Your insertions are not the same as his. You might have a longer torso, shorter lower body. He might have it the other way around. So for him, the bench position is different. So yes, those things point by point are the same in the book, but individualization of those things
application
comes.
is different.
Yes, only comes when you've one, trained a lot of people, and two, trained yourself and experimented with yourself.
So like experimentation barely happens with your clients and your athletes, being very honest. It happens on you
Self.
because when you're talking about a client, you are delivering results. So if that experimentation goes south, then the results are screwed. So
Yeah. And you
that's
can't
the-
afford to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you can experiment on yourself, but never.
yeah.
Definitely the client.
Understood. So, coming back to your journey, so you started off. So, what made you you started off bodybuilding? How many years ago?
Well, I didn't decide day one that I touched a dumbbell that I'm going to step on stage. It was I feel fitness is a thing that everybody connects a little differently.
Yeah. Basically, let's talk about this. I forgot. So, I want you to. Want you to give your own definition of fitness, and then Mihir, your definition of fitness. So
For me, fitness has been just one thing. I've watched a lot of movies. I'm always fascinated by the medieval age people, how strong they were, how, they had no pains, knee pains or back pains or something because they were active. But of course, times were different back then. You got to run, you got to walk. There was no vehicles. Now it's different. So now for us, being able to lift a grocery bag at the age of 70 is fitness for me. Being able to just climb up a stairs of flight without feeling that your lungs are going to pop off is fitness to
because
me.
back in the day, people used to walk to even get water.
Exactly. And they used to carry water for miles, not just... And I see in my apartment people taking lift for just a floor. It's like, you need to be functional. I just don't want somebody just carrying me around when I'm old. Till my last breath, I just want to walk around and do my own things. For me, I think when I started bodybuilding, it was all about look as big as you can, look as ripped as you can, be the strongest guy in the room. Of course, adding a little ego to that. But throughout the journey, I realized, yes, that is just one aspect of it. I got a body because I trained my mind and my lifestyle and my health to be it. Body as itself is a byproduct.
Yeah, true.
I've developed a lot of mental strength, willpower of not eating things that you're not supposed to, especially when you're competing, of saying no to certain things. I had to say no to a lot of events, especially when I was prepping. I had to say no to a lot of... I didn't even celebrate my birthday because I was prepping. So it's a little extreme, but also you get to know to push your limits. So fitness is also pushing your limits mentally, especially. Physically is again, it's a secondary thing.
Discipline.
Yeah, with discipline.
Yeah.
And I feel you can apply that to other aspects of your life. Totally.
True.
Definitely.
And that is how I'm able to pull this off every day with my business, because if you just dumped me from a time portal from 5 years ago to now, I think I would crash on day one. It's the journey that endured me for the last 5 years is where I learned being patient, having delayed gratification, of trying, not giving up. It sounds cliche, but they're cliche because they work.
Exactly. What's your definition of fitness?
No, I want to understand your journey first, and then probably we can talk about what fitness means to him.
So my journey is kind of not a interesting one. It's a cliche fitness freak and an athlete kind of journey. So I started my sports career at the age of, I think, 4 or 5. So since I started walking and stuff, I was always into sports and stuff. And so at the age of 6, I started going to a cricket academy. So luckily over there, I was a tall guy since that time only. So they allowed me, because usually cricket academies allow you to go at the age of 8 or 9. But luckily I got there at 6.5. So I started playing cricket, dropped out of cricket in 5 months, because that was very strenuous on me, and my parents always used to drop me and stuff. So I used to play in the gully and everything. And then luckily I got into karate in the school itself. So our school was very enthusiastic towards sports and everything. So then I represented India in 2013, 2014, I think so. And then from there, my sports journey began. And once I left karate because of injury, I came into cricket, and then I full-fledgedly played cricket for like 13 years professionally. And cut to 2016, I had an accident and I injured myself. And 2018, I left cricket for good because of the injury. And then I was like, what to do? Because in my entire life, I had not done anything else apart from sports and anything. So education was always there, but no hobby as such. Like people have got engineering karna hai. I didn't had. So then I was researching a lot, and then I came across this courses and this intrigue towards fitness and this thing. Then I did a lot of research stuff, and then I jumped into strength and conditioning. So strength and conditioning is basically training athletes to give their best performance out there in the field. So that's how I started my journey at around 2018, and then did my certifications and my degrees, everything in it. But because I was doing commerce, so I decided to finish off my bachelor's degree, because I was not able to get any admissions into a science background degree, like bachelor's in sports sciences or anything, because I had 11th, 12th commerce. So I first off finished my bachelor's degree in commerce, then I did a CSCS certification. And luckily again, because I was an athlete, there's this university which allowed me to pursue their master's program. So I did that as well. And then based on that, I was working
Masters in
sports sciences. Yeah.
Sports?
So, sciences.
Okay.
So that's basically a holistic program where you learn strength and conditioning, nutrition, sports psychology, a bit of rehabilitation, kinesiology, everything. Because that gives you a whole and soul approach towards sports and training, may it be lab-based training or may it be on-field training. We'll talk about that, like lab-based and everything. That's basically this testing of VO2 max and all that stuff which happens in the lab, which is very, very to the point as compared to field. So that gives you a holistic approach. And then simultaneously I was working, I started my career, of course, in the sport of cricket only. So I've worked 3 years in cricket, then I jumped to swimmers. Then did a small project with badminton players, and then eventually I landed up in athletics till last year. So that's how I kind of started my fitness journey and everything. So regarding my training, so I was training since the age of, I think so 11 or 12 I started training. So initially it was no goal, no coach, just do whatever you feel, run here and there, do some push-up, do some pull-ups, do some squats, that's it. Structured training started in 2017 after my injury. So again, it was because of my coach who helped me a lot in structured training and based on my research also. So I've got quite fascination towards anatomy and physiology and those things. I don't know why, but yeah, I've got a lot of interest in that. And so I had zero knowledge about anatomy. So like I didn't even know what a bicep muscle is called scientifically. But then I started reading stuff about it, and then I learned about muscles, origin insertions and everything, the muscle actions. I slowly got into that, and eventually did my degrees and stuff. So coming to the question which you asked, which is what is fitness to me? One, of course, the point he said, which is at the age of 80, 90, you should be able to walk.
Yeah, to
freely,
be functional.
To be functional. That's the most crucial part for anyone. Secondly, I feel it's a healing process. Like for me, if I'm depressed or sad or frustrated, the first thing I do is get my bag and go to the gym, because that is which heals me completely. There are a lot of factors in it, because when you go to the gym, you train, you do resistance training that releases good hormones in the body and stuff, because you talked about hormones. Hormones are everything in the body. Your body functions based on hormones, and that is what is going to derive whether you are in a good mood or bad mood. The situations, of course, like you see that we are sad because of a situation. It's not because of the situation, it's because of the hormones which are acting in the body.
How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel it's a healer. And there are people who have got different kind of healing patterns. Some may love running, some may love sprinting, some may love playing a sport. I love gymming, or I love running as well. So that's what fitness is to me. It's kind of a healer to me. And I believe that most of us unintentionally heal in the gym or when they go on a track to run or whatever. So that's very interesting, or very close to my heart, I should say. Like right now also, when I get frustrated, as I told you, the rage, rather than yelling or punching or throwing something, I just go to the gym, hit the best squat of my life, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy. So yeah.
I 100% agree with that. I've not noticed it initially, but at one point of time I was going through a lot in my life, and every time the only thing that was going good was my workouts. So no matter what mood I was in, I used to go, and then I realized by the time I'm done with the workout, those things were still there, but I was in a better place to deal with them mentally.
Yeah.
So your thought process changes drastically in that 1 hour of releasing the oxytocins or the endorphins or whatever happy hormones that your body releases once the session is done.
Right.
And you feel, okay, yeah, now this seems less like a fuck up and more like a problem I need to solve. You look at it as a problem solving rather than why did this happen to me.
Right.
So there's a lot of shift.
You stop cribbing about it and
Yeah,
start
yeah,
solving it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is people go towards binge eating, for example, or binge watching, whatever the hell it is. They think that that's going to solve their problems. But in reality, that is not going to solve their problems in the long run. It will solve at that point. Like if you're watching a Netflix series for 2 hours, it can solve the problems for 2 hours. But after 2 hours, your cortisol levels are going to get risen again, and you're still going to feel that stress, because the hormones which are actually going to suppress cortisol are not going to work out.
So I used to do that. So like whenever I had a difficult situation, I used to, binge eat, especially a lot of ice creams, like tubs of ice creams. And but that again was involuntary. It's not like, I want to sit and eat ice cream every day. It's just happening in like more like an involuntary action. Like I don't have anything else to do, or I rather don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And I just want to just sit and relax. Might as well have an ice cream.
So it's just 1 or 2 times that your mind needs to know that, okay, every time I feel stressed or I feel low or sad, this is gonna come, which is an ice cream in your
Right.
case.
Yeah.
So it's a feedback that you're giving every time that you're having ice cream, especially when you're sad. I personally tell my clients, this goes with alcohol as well, any sort of narcotics as well. You want to do that, do it when you're happy, not when you're sad. When you're sad is when you need your mind to be very clear to process all of that.
Right.
And thing goes with food as well. It creates a neurological pattern to yourself that, okay, I'm stressed or depressed, I'm going to eat. That's where the stress eating term comes from.
Right.
Stress and eating should not be in one sentence.
I agree.
It's the most.
It just makes things even worse.
Yeah. And it doesn't make you feel any better. As I said, it's just gonna, suppress or cope for that particular duration of you eating the ice cream or watching something. But in my experience, after that, you'll even feel more shittier.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because not only you have a problem to deal with, but also yourself, which you're creating for by your own self.
And plus, like, people have guilt of eating stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is another issue to you. So,
Added.
and that's where this bulimia nervosa comes from.
Oh, sorry?
It's called bulimia nervosa, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, bulimia nervosa, yeah.
So
What is it?
It's sort of a syndrome. It's not a disease. It's like a mental, psychological issue that you develop over course of time, where you eat a lot, like stuff yourself. At the same time, you're conscious that you don't want to get fat.
Right.
You're going to go into the washroom and start puking.
Right.
And this becomes a habit. And I've seen people trying so hard to get out of it. Every time they get into the lapse of just eating something, then just going puking, and it's a cycle that never ends unless you pull yourself out of it.
So, like, slightly going off the topic, like, because we are talking about this stuff, like, let's resonate towards sports personalities, good sports personalities. What do you feel like? Does Virat Kohli doesn't have a cheat meal? Of course he has once in a while. Does Ronaldo doesn't have a cheat meal? Of course he has once in a while, but that's once in a while. And that's where that mindset is built. And I personally feel like if you want to build a strong mindset, of course meditation and all that stuff are there in your life. But what training does to you is support for that mindset. Because eventually why we want a good mindset is to be good in life, to prosper in life. So like these two has to come in. It's not just training the body when we are talking about doing 100 kg squat or hitting that PR. It's the mind getting also trained. Because if you are going deep into the squat with 100 kgs on your back, man, it's hard to get up. That is where your mind is like, no, I have to push. And that's how you resonate back into the life. And you push when you have got severe amount of problems. So yeah.
I think the body and the mind get rewarded when you do something hard.
Yeah.
And it's been in human DNA for almost since we've existed.
Yeah.
From the time of hunting and gathering, we've felt accomplished once we've gathered food and got back, or hunted or protected your tribe. And then comes the medieval age where you go on wars and men feel accomplished after they've won a war. Now, fast forward 2025, we are living in the most sophisticated, unharmful times. People think life is hard now, but you're not getting dropped bombs on your head. Nobody's chasing you. Nobody's killing you. Countries are in peace. We're living in the most soft times.
And that has become a problem basically.
Yes.
Because people don't know like what their goals should be. Like
Exactly.
everyone like, abhi kya karu main?
Exactly. Now, for people, it's become materialistic. If they want to feel accomplished, they need more money or more stuff to buy or go on a vacation, which is totally fine and perfect.
And also like more of appetite for external validation is
yes,
very high.
Yes, as coming to the social media era, people have everything misconceived of what an ideal life should be.
Right.
And what is good, what is bad, and what people see as, oh, this guy is doing really well in his life. For that, he needs to go on X amount of vacations every day, sit in a particular car or wear certain clothes. But if we look back, nobody cared.
Yeah.
Until 10,
Even now
15
they don't
years.
care.
They don't
Rushil.
care.
Even now people don't care. It's just their own mental
Yes.
image that they're building in their heads, is what I think, at least.
Absolutely.
That is what it is.
So in gyms, like you must have observed that half of the people come to the gym to click photos.
Absolutely.
They train 3-4
Absolutely.
muscles and they take 3 hours to train those 3-4 muscles, and half of the time they are clicking photos, taking videos and stuff. I mean,
No,
of course you want to do it, but don't neglect why you are there.
No, as long as the priorities flip.
Yeah.
If their priority is to just work out to show off,
Yeah.
then that's bad.
Yeah.
If they're working out and like trying to motivate others by showcasing them, then that's good.
And bro, I've extreme case, forget working out people, at least you've worked out to some extent to have that body to showcase, right? I see people go to cafes and bars that they don't want to eat the food, that just because somebody feels it's a nice
Take
place,
a picture.
take a
put it up.
picture.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy.
I'm seeing
Absolutely.
those scenes.
There
Yeah.
are people that told me to my face, I was like, the food is not nice there. Why do you want to go? The view is nice. The people come there are nice. And the stories are nice. It's like, that's what it has come to.
Yeah.
Seeking validation. I feel when you work out hard and once you're done and you're panting and you look yourself, you box, and once you are done, you're just cooling off and sitting there, all validation is there.
Yeah.
You just gave it to yourself.
Yeah.
So people have misconceived what.
No, it's just, I think it's just what people are, I mean, everyone are collectively, contributing to that, appetite for external validation. Ante. That's it.
Very true.
Interesting. Acha, coming back to your journey. So when did you competed, no?
I've competed in bodybuilding for about 6 years. I've competed in about 8 shows, 1, 2, and been in the top 5 for almost all of them. But now that I look back to it, it was a beautiful phase that taught me a lot of things. That it's a strenuous life. Competing in bodybuilding, it's a little extreme if you ask me. Nutrition wise, social life, you have basically zero social life because you have some meals to eat at a particular time. Now that I say all of this, I think people misconceive bodybuilding and fitness.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because they say you need to eat this much protein at this time. That applies in bodybuilding, not to a lot of people that are just getting
Yeah.
into working out.
Yeah.
True.
Because at that point of time, I remember 3 months, it was more like a monk mode, and even harder because you're living in an urban setting with all the distractions around. So you got to wake up at 8 o'clock, have your egg whites and oats or whatever your first meal is, and that has to be on time. Because you have next meal, you have to reach your calorie goal, then you have a training coming up, then you have your other stuff to do. So you can't afford to, miss a meal or be a little off on the timing or just slack off, not even one day. If there is a show coming in 3 months, every day matters. And it's the mindset, right? I want to lose if I lose because the other guy is better than me, not because I slacked off any of these one days. So that's the mindset when it comes to bodybuilding or any sport for that matter. You do anything and everything to stick to the plan. And there was this time I remember I used to stick a plan on my fridge and I used to follow it. My mom used to make homemade curries and she was behind, have some, you'll lose the flavor. Ghar ka khana, thoda khao. It had no calories, the rasam or the sambar or whatever, 0 calories. But it's the mindset. No, that's not on the paper. I'm not putting in my mouth,
Yeah.
So for me, bodybuilding was very, how do I put, transforming. Not my physique, but my whole way of seeing things. I think that perseverance is now being carried forward into my business because there are days I want to wake up. It's still something I love, even bodybuilding, but there are still days that you don't want to wake up. The bed seems nice, the weather it's cold, it's raining. It's like 5 more minutes, but that's when you need that urge and discipline to go and do things that you're supposed to. So yeah, bodybuilding has been more mental toughness for me than the physical aspect itself.
Rushil, because I don't know what what bodybuilding is and what the process is like.
Yeah.
These shows that you're talking about, like how different is it from a regular guy who's going to the gym just for fitness? Like how different is the routine?
The routine is pretty much can be same. You do a push-pull legs kind of a split.
Okay.
I also do a push-pull legs kind of a split. The only difference is you have other things to do in life, and you have your of course I have my responsibilities as well, but your job might be, you might be a police officer, you might be an IT employee, you might be a banker. Fitness for you is to look good. Bodybuilding to me is to look the best on stage to beat the next guy.
Right.
Every muscle developed, everything symmetrical. How do I show it off? How do I improve my back? My rhomboids are not developed. You get into those sort of details. My side delts are looking a little flatter than my rear delts, and it's making my shoulders look narrow. Or my waist is getting too big. I need to stop training obliques. Or my hamstrings are not matching up to my quads when I hit the side chest pose. Because these are the poses that you've been asked on the stage to showcase your muscle.
Okay.
And when you hit certain poses, you feel, okay, even though I look really good in the mirror, for a lot of people, that's like the goal physique. But for you, you're never satisfied.
Right.
And I feel that extremity is the border where what fitness for someone versus what bodybuilding is for someone. And of course, a lot of other things are involved as well. How well you carry yourself into the show. Like a bodybuilding show is pretty much nothing but you get lined up with 5 or 10 other guys, and they ask you to hit certain poses depending on what category you're in. It can be men's physique, which is more of a beach body kind of a look. You might have seen people wearing, not the typical trunks, but the shorts, and sort of look more appealing than a hardcore bodybuilder is.
Okay.
So they have different poses. These guys have different poses, and you really just get compared. It's like a beauty pageant.
Okay.
If you ask me, it's not a sport. It's a sport only in the gym. Once you are on the stage, it's a beauty pageant.
Right. Okay.
So you get gauged on how well you're presenting yourself, how well you're lean, you're dry.
So do you also train on how you're presenting yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Posing is major part.
You practice posing to hold certain poses. That I feel is the most hardest part, because on the stage you restrict carbs, you've restricted water, you're playing around with your sodium levels, aldosterone, which is your water controlling hormone in the kidney. You want as much water as you want in the muscles, but not under the skin, to look fuller and leaner. So it's a trick. How do you do that?
Right.
Now, your body is smart, right? You do anything, it'll cope with it. So you restrict water, you only have a window of 48 hours before it realizes that this guy is not getting water, I need to retain water. So counterproductive, to look leaner, you'll be looking even more flabbier because your body is holding water now because you're not giving it enough. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how much detail you give into when you're taking it up as a sport or a profession. And the other side effect is you're going to be lonely, you're going to be in doubt all the time, you're going to question your choices. Why am I doing this?
Is that because you enter a stage of self-obsession?
Sort of. Bodybuilding is self-obsession. You got to be self-obsessed, otherwise you can't be the best, because you got to care about how much water you're drinking, you got to care about the sleep you're getting. You've trained really hard today, you've worked, you've trained your clients, you've trained really hard, and then your girlfriend or your friend or your mother is asking you for a event that you need to go to, and you know it's going to get late, but your sleep is also important because you have to do this all over tomorrow again. Now here comes the situation where you got to say no, I got to get my sleep. Now that makes you feel self-obsessed.
Yeah.
Right.
It is narcissistic in a way.
Yeah.
So that's the sacrifice you got to go through when you're in this sport particularly.
Well, do you agree that a bodybuilder has got a mind-muscle connection like no one else?
Sort of, yes. Because purely for the fact that he has more muscle. A very clean example I've seen is cable-seated rows for the back. For me, even I'm not a bodybuilder anymore, but I remember myself from being heavy. Now my range is all the way. My elbows can go as back as my scapula can take them. But before, my back was so thick and wide, even here my ranges used to end. But I used to feel a lot of muscle. It's not that I didn't. So having more muscle will get you to that place of having more better mind and muscle connection.
I think both are interlinked also. Like
Yes.
when you're bodybuilding, like each and every rep you do is mind muscle connection.
Yeah.
Like you can't think of something else and try to, connect your mind with that
Even when
muscle.
you're posing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Posing
Is mind and muscle connection altogether.
Right.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
100%. Because, like you said, the kind of training, if you're a weightlifter or a power lifter, your goal is to get the 100 kilos of weight from point A to point B. Of course, keeping some form and technique in mind, but it's not that strict.
True.
But here, the goal is not the weight. The goal is to train the muscle using weights as tool. So you might as well train with 5 kilos and make the weight harder on yourself. I've done this in COVID. I had only a set of dumbbells at my home, and at a point it became so light that I had to find methods to make the weight heavier and harder. So that's where you differentiate from lifting weights versus actually training your muscle.
Right. Like actually making that muscle grow,
Correct.
utilizing what you have.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter how light that weight is.
And strength and muscle also are sort of on a linear line, but not always that you are big necessarily translates that you're strong, because strength can be also built by your CNS, central nervous system. For now, I still deadlift 3 times my body weight. There
That's
are
crazy, man.
bodybuilders that don't deadlift at all.
Yeah.
They just use machines, which is totally fine. So
Like what kind of machines? Like you're talking about assisted machine.
Assisted machines, even free weights now, if I want to do a bench press, I go barbell, I go
Right.
load up 2 times or 1.5 times my body weight, and I still keep my form and technique in mind, but I try to gain strength using it.
Right.
But these guys, if they lift that weight with the sort of mind and muscle connection, you cannot do that. Because contractions, negative, control the weight slowly, eccentrics, all these things are techniques that put your muscle under more time under tension.
Right.
So how do you shape your muscles or grow them? How much time under tension are they throughout the set matters. So for them, they don't lose that time under tension ever. So the muscle is under tension constantly. And of course, it gets fatigued out quite easily. Whereas me doing a bench press, I might lock out on the top and take
Rest
the
for a
bench,
bit.
rest for a
Yeah.
bit and go back down. I'm trying to generate force and strength.
Yeah.
They're trying to generate blood, push blood into the muscle, get more nutrients in there, stretch the fascia, contractions, eccentrics, all those sorts of things.
Like when it comes to strength, it's about how much weight you are lifting. When it comes to hypertrophy or bodybuilding, it's more of how much of the blood flow and everything is going into the muscle and how much volume the muscle size is. So strength can be like even a linear person like me. I lift like almost 2 times of my body weight, which is again like for me it's a very good thing. But that doesn't show up on my body. I'm not that bulky, but I've got that strength. So yeah.
Like the other day we were talking about, you were suggesting that, in one way it is better, like, to cut down the number of variations
Yeah.
that you're working on. Well, I was saying that, while I wish to increase my variations, I prefer not increasing the weights, because for me it is the metabolic fatigue that I'm chasing.
Yeah. So yeah.
I think volume can be decided based on purely what number of sets as a whole you'll be doing. For example, my push workout, I want to do 10 sets as a whole. I can do 5 variations of 2 sets,
sets,
or
yeah.
2 variations of 5
5
sets.
sets,
It's the
yeah,
same
that's-
volume in
Sorry,
the end.
could you repeat that? 5 variations of?
2 sets, which
Okay.
is 10 sets in the end,
Yeah.
or 2 variations, 5 sets.
Exactly.
It's the same volume in the end. But now the difference would be, now if I'm doing 5 variations, I'm not giving enough time under tension for each variation to hit that particular angle.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Am I just doing it as a top off workout for my previously done workout? Am I just trying to tap into the fibers that I didn't before? Or if I did my previous workout that is more 2 variations of 5 sets, is fatiguing out all the muscle fibers that particular exercise can reach. Now, if it's a incline chest press, your pec minor, it gets fatigued out like nothing else. But if let's say I do only 2 sets of that, maybe third set or fourth set is where I feel it the most and where I can get a better result. I'm moving on to something else. So you need to decide if you want to really fatigue it out. And I also think based on these kind of 2 loads, you have 2 kinds of hypertrophy, myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. With the more variations, I feel you go through a sarcoplasmic hypertrophy than a myofibrillar one, where you're just filling your muscle with sarcoplasm, which is blood and plasma. And that necessarily your muscle hasn't grown, but there's volume in the muscle, so it looks bigger.
Right. That's the pump.
Exactly. Now there's the second kind where you're actually toned down, you're sore as shit, you're recovering, your muscles will actually grow in a week.
That is where you do lesser number of variations, but go for higher number of sets and reps.
Exactly, more load.
So like training your body completely depends upon the energy system you are utilizing. As simple as that. Body doesn't know variations in sets; it just knows where the energy is coming from.
Correct.
So, like if you are training for 3 sets of 5 repetitions, that's a different energy system. Whereas 5 sets of 30 repetitions, that's a very different energy system. So, if you want a big kind of a hypertrophy, you mainly have to be into the glycolytic system, where a lot of carbohydrate energy based, like the body gets energy from the carbs. But if you are looking to be like a wrestler, for example, who needs to have brute force to push the opponent away, you need to be driving the energy from the ATP-CP, which is your adenosine triphosphate, and the creatine phosphate, which is found directly into the muscle.
Right.
So for training your ATP-CP system, the rep set schemes are very different. For training a bodybuilder, rep sets and the variation schemes are very different. And there are a lot of other factors also, the training patterns, this and that. But generally or mainly, it's the energy systems which defines what kind of result you're going to get.
Right.
So, yeah.
But what kind of results can we expect in the second one, Rushil? Like in the first one, you said your muscles look pumped.
Yeah.
But what if we're doing lesser number of variations and higher number of sets and reps?
I'll give you a more practical way to choose what to do.
Right.
Now, this is my first workout of the week and I'm fresh. I've just got a massage. I'm ready to go and rock. I want to test myself in a bench press or a dumbbell press. I'll just stick to dumbbell press and chest flies and go all out in those 2 things. Now, this is where I will see significant tearing down of the muscle, the micro tears that you hear of most often, and rebuilding process, how the muscle grows. This is where it happens. But now this is done and I move to the end of the week and I still feel like I want to hit my chest again. I don't want to go that heavy, but I still want to touch up all the muscle fibers that I have already done during the start of the week. Now I'll do stuff like push-ups, different angle of chest flies, just dumbbell pullovers, or just machine presses, where I don't want to go too heavy and too much on the load, but I still want to get a good pump.
So you're basically going for variety in this
Yes.
at the end of the week.
Exactly.
Like more variations.
More variations.
Right.
And more untapped fibers from that first
Right.
setup. Because when it comes to aesthetics, having a chest and having a well-developed chest is 2 different things.
Yeah.
You might have good chest that looks nice on the t-shirt, but if you take it off, it could be shapeless and your upper pecs could be slightly lacking behind the lower pecs. How do you do that? It's like carving a stone, right? Like a sculpture. You break it off at one point. You feel, okay, this needs more definition here. It's a very old school bro science kind of a thing, but with actual science applied to it, that is what in a layman terms it is.
Sculpting your body.
So like you must have seen that photos of a person. There's a statue which is fat from down and is sculpting that body.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
very common.
I think
So
it's
the
a
same.
Greek.
Greek something.
So you, not suggest, but you would say that, trying different variations with lesser number of sets and reps and a minimal weight load is good because you're activating or stimulating the entire muscle.
Correct.
With different angles and variations.
Yes. You need to understand there are pros and cons to both the styles of training.
Right. Yeah.
Now, with the heavy load and lesser variations, you're going to get a lot of CNS fatigue. Your central nervous system will fatigue out.
Sorry, with which one?
With the more load, more sets, and heavy, just taking 2 variations.
Right.
because you're doing the same thing and going all out in that particular ranges of your muscle, you're going to get fatigued out and your muscle is going to be really sore. You need a lot of rest and recovery. Whereas the other kind of workout is more like I'm getting a good pump, I'm still pushing nutrients into my muscle, but I'm not doing that much damage to have so much inflammation, so much cortisol elevated, and I don't need to recover for the next session as much as I did for the first session.
Right. So you can go to the gym the next day.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you decide? It totally comes down to your recovery for that week.
Right.
Now, if you don't feel run over, you don't feel lethargic, go for another heavy session.
Right.
But sometimes you might need a deload.
Right.
This is where you take that deload and still work out, but not as intense as you would.
Usually, like after a heavy session, it's recommended to go for like 36 hours of recovery because the central nervous system requires a lot of time to recover because you cannot like if you're using the glycolytic system, which is based on carbs, you can load the glycolytic system by eating more carbs. But what about the central nervous system? It requires its own time to, get back to the normal stage. That's the reason higher amount of days where you are resting and not utilizing much more of energy from the CNS. But with the glycolytic and the oxidative system, we can replenish the energy demands or the energy necessities with the help of carbs and fats. So that's the reason, like whenever you do a heavy session, you like take a lot of rest and do stuff. So, but again, the results are very different from the CNS dominant session and the glycolytic dominant session. So yeah.
So I'm asking this because I was actually trying this wherein I was pushing for a lot of weights. Like I was trying to increase my weight load, but I could not be consistent with my workouts because probably because of this fatigue. Which is why for the last 3 months, what I've done is I'm not going for the weights now. I'm now going for variations, and I'm just trying to be consistent.
Right. Yeah, of course. Well, that works definitely because now you tell that because you've listened to your body.
I've tried it on myself
Exactly.
also. Like I've tried both of
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
You've listened to your body. You're taking feedback from it. Now, I was about to add something when he says the CNS fatigue, which is an absolute nightmare to have. Because you might feel that you've recovered from the leg session, which was done on Monday. It's Thursday now, but you're still lethargic. That's your body telling to rest.
Right.
And your nervous system can only take so much load. And hence they say don't train legs and back on 2 consecutive days or on the same day. Very 2 different muscles. But being the biggest muscles in your body, the group of muscles in your body, they take a lot of energy and demand. So you can't deadlift one day, squat the next day. Your lower back will be fried. Your CNS will be fried. Your hip flexors, your glutes, your whatever.
Everything.
So you need to also consider the overlapping assisting muscles. It's not just that, okay, I've done back today, I've done deadlifts, tomorrow is day to squat. Because 2 different muscles, right? No. There's still a lot of overlap. There's no such thing as isolation. Even if I'm moving my finger, my forearm and my everything else is helping it move. So you got to be mindful of how you program.
So your neck till your toe is like covered in fascia, which is interconnected. So like if you relax your toe, you feel relaxation in your entire body because the fascia is getting relaxed and your entire body is getting relaxed because of that facial manipulation. So that's the reason what he is saying, like you cannot do back and legs or as a matter of fact any adjacent muscle, because if you're squatting, you're still using your lumbar, you're still using your spine, you're still using your glutes and everything again. But whereas if you're, let's say, lat pulling, you feel that you're not using much of your glutes and stuff, but yeah, still they're getting used because of the facial thing and this and that. So yeah.
The only way you can probably do a leg and a back session on 2 consecutive days is be very careful of the exercise choices.
Yeah.
If I'm doing back tomorrow, today is my leg day, I'm going to stick to quads. I'm not going to touch something in my posterior chest. I'm just going to go isolative, again, relatively weird term. Leg extensions, low leg placement, leg presses, something that's purely quad dominant and not too taxing. And with my back, still though I didn't touch my lower back, I'm not gonna go there. I'm just gonna stick to stuff like pull downs or straight arm pullovers or something that hits my upper back. So programming and chest and shoulders, right? You either do them today both together or just place them 3-4 days away. Because you've bench pressed, you've used your front delt. Now you're shoulder pressing tomorrow, doesn't make sense.
That bugs me a lot when I see
Yeah.
people doing chest
Yeah,
and shoulder
yeah,
back to back.
Exactly.
Either you do it like on the same day because it's push, or
Yeah.
you spread it 4 days across. That's your shoulder is not recovered or your chest is not recovered for the upcoming workout, and that's where people don't understand the risk of injury increases 50-60%, and once you are injured, you are gonna go way back. So we need to always take in the risk reward ratio of a particular exercise or a particular session or a particular program, whether this program or exercise is going to give you higher risk with higher reward with lesser risk, or vice versa. If it's vice versa, then it's better that you skip it off.
So you guys say doing chest and shoulder on the same day is better.
Yeah.
Or on 3 days apart.
3 days apart.
But again, there's a workaround if you want to do it the next day. You've pressed heavy today on your chest day. Just don't touch your front delts. Maybe just do face pulls for your posterior delts and your lateral side raises, something like that. And coming back to that volume thing, they say you either can train hard or for long.
Yeah.
You can't train hard and long together.
Right.
We'll come back to muscle building after discussing some sport-related training. So you tell us how is sport-specific training different from what we discussed right now, like
Alright.
in terms of bodybuilding or muscle building?
Okay, so see, bodybuilding is something where you showcase your muscles, you pose, and you show that you have got better abs than the person on your left and the right. In sports, it's about seconds. Let's say we are talking about a sprint. A gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal can be a span of 0.001 second. Okay, and that's what we train for. It's not about how you look, it's about how you play the sport. Okay, let's consider an example of sprinting only, because that's the shortest sport and there are a lot of factors in it. So like sprinting, you need to run 100 meters. That's it. That's the only goal. But in order to run those 100 meters, you have to do a lot of back end work. Okay, and your goal doesn't have to be how you look. It has to be how can I run from a 10.50 seconds 100 meter sprint to 10.20 seconds 100 meter sprint. So I've given you a big gap. 0.30 seconds is a humongous gap. It takes blood and sweat to reduce 0.05 seconds as well.
Yeah.
So that's the only goal in sports. It's about performance. Training, strength and conditioning is something which is an support to the sport. It's not the primary thing in a sport. The primary thing for any athlete is the sport. Like cricketers, the primary thing is not training, it's cricket. Basketball player, primary thing is the basketball match, not strength and
So
conditioning.
when you say that, you're talking about repetitions of, like, let's say a batsman for example. So how much practice he's getting or how much he is scamming that straight drive
Yeah.
is what is building his skill.
Yes.
So that is the fundamental training
Yes.
that the player is
Yes.
getting.
Yes.
And apart from that, strength and conditioning.
Yes. So now I'll tell you, strength and conditioning plays a vital role in improving your strength. For example, currently we are living in a T20 world. Okay, so T20 is not about endurance like test. You don't need to stay there for 100 overs. You are out of in 40 overs. Both the teams are done in the match. So it's much of a power game. So now you need to understand from SNC coach perspective, how can you improve the power of the batsman so that he can hit a 100 meter six. Simple as that. That's your goal. Increase the power so that batsman can hit a 100 meter six. For a pace bowler, it is how can the pace bowler endure 4 overs without getting fatigued. That's it. That's the only goal for a strength and conditioning coach. But the most crucial goals when it comes to skill sports, because there are two types of sports. One is a physiological sport, one is a skill sport. When it comes to skill sports, the first and primary goal is how SNC can support the skill. As a matter of fact, if you're talking about cricket, as I told you, power and endurance. But the most crucial goal is how we can reduce the risk of injuries on the field. So injuries happens either because of lack of strength, lack of mobility, lack of proprioception, lack of flexibility, or because of an incident. So like if someone is dashing you, you cannot do anything. But if your hamstring is tight and you are going to stretch it out badly, you can have a hamstring tear. So in order to prohibit that, we need to do back-end work where we are, working on the flexibility, strengthening of the hamstring and stuff. So that is where the strength and conditioning aspect comes for skill sports. But when it comes to physiological sports
is sprinting.
Yeah, so physiological, anything which requires a skill. For example, football, basketball, cricket, hockey, these are more skill-based sports. Whereas sprinting, weightlifting, As a matter of fact, even wrestling is much of a physiological sport. That is where your physiological aspects matter a lot. How
Okay, so in these sports, these are higher than the skill required.
Yes, as a
Okay,
matter of fact.
basically, you have to be stronger or have more endurance in order to excel in that particular sport.
Yes.
But not put as much brain.
No. I will not say as much brain. It's equal, but the physiology plays a crucial role over here. For example,
Slightly higher. Acha.
let's compare Jamaica and, as a matter of fact, Indians. Why Indians cannot win a 100-meter race and why Jamaicans can win a 100-meter. Both the sprinters may have the same technique. Everything must be same. Let's say it's not possible, but everything is a mirror for the Jamaican sprinter and the Indian sprinter. But because the Jamaicans have got those type 1, type 2 muscle fibers, which have got higher physiological advantage for a sprinter, they're going to dash us out. So that is where the physiological sport has got an advantage. And that is where I feel training a skill sport is a very different aspect. Training a physiological sport is a very different aspect. Physiological sports, you have to look from head to toe. You cannot have a slight misjudgment as well. If you have that slight misjudgment, that is going to reflect in the game and that's going to cost a lot. So you need to work on everything. In cricket, maybe let's say a batsman doesn't have endurance. It's okay, he may survive. Because there were guys in the past, even right now also, you see there are a lot of cricketers who are not that fit, but still they play a test match without getting injured. That's because it's not much of a physiological thing over there. You can, like, if someone is standing into the slips for, let's say, 30-40 overs, and he or she doesn't move, so it's not much of a
It's not
problem.
as taxing as the other.
But if you have to run a 42-kilometer marathon, man, it's taxing. Taxing on you.
boxing,
Yeah,
like, you
boxing
know,
as a matter
yeah.
of fact.
I was
Any-
about to ask this, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a crossover between a physiological and a skill-based sport, boxing and football, I believe, because I've seen footballers that are really strong, especially you can see the difference in the league itself. Now, if you take Premier League,
Yeah.
they're very, what do you call, physical.
Yeah.
They're all gameplays, tackle, push as a unit. But when you go to Spain, it's all pass. Where do you see the run coming from? Where do you throw the loop ball?
Strategy.
Even NBA.
NBA.
Yeah.
So that's what is like boxing, wrestling, I would say. Even as a matter of fact, now football and NBA. Any sport which requires a lot of running, any sport which requires jumping, landing, agility is for me a like overlap between physiological and skill sport. But then again, the skill still have got the edge in those sports. But then physiology plays a very crucial part in those sports also. So cricket, as a matter of fact, I'll never say it's a physiological sport. It's purely skill-based sport because, of course, physiology plays a part. I'm not saying no, but it's a very minor part, I would say. So yeah.
So how does the training differ from a physiological standpoint and a skill standpoint in these two different kind of sports?
Okay. Let's take a very simple exercise in the equation. Let's say you squat. Okay. So a physiological sport athlete may need to squat a much more heavier weight in order to get those gains, in order to develop his or her strength, in order to develop his or her power, as compared to a skill-based sport where it's about speed. Like how quickly you can move from point A to point B. Like in cricket, the ball is going to travel like this. So you need to be very quick. So it's much more about speed. So like light weights with faster velocities. That's how a skill-based sport you can train. On the other hand, skill-based sports are mainly towards speed and agility and conditioning, not much into strength and power. Whereas physiological sports, it's a mix-up. You need good strength, okay, and you need good conditioning. Sprinters don't get conditioned under us as strength and conditioning coaches. They've got coaches for it, because training a sprinter is a very, very dangerous game, man. It's very difficult to get 0.05 seconds down. Whereas conditioning a cricketer is much more easier because it's about improving the endurance, improving their high intensity interval training factor. Like they ran like 30 meters, they have to recover again. They ran 30 meters, they have to recover again. So that's in our hands. There is no time limit.
Right.
So that's how it is. Skill sports mainly, I believe it's not power and strength. It's mainly speed, agility, and conditioning, the aerobic fitness. Physiological sport, it's a mix of both speed, agility, conditioning, and strength and power. So there are building blocks when you train in the gym. So first comes building block is a hypertrophy block. It can be myofibrillar, it can be sarcoplasmic, depending upon the sport. Then comes your strength block. Then comes your speed strength block. And then comes your then comes your strength speed block, and then comes your speed strength block. So you have to follow these blocks only, and that's what periodization is all about.
So these are in order, you're saying?
Yeah, you cannot have strength speed at the start and hypertrophy in between.
So you first build muscle.
Yeah, first thing is build muscle to sustain that force.
True.
Or to develop that force, as a matter of fact. If you don't have muscle, you cannot develop a force to grow, do 100 kg squat, or you cannot lift a 100 kg clean, as a matter of fact. So you need to first build muscle, then build the strength around it, and then convert that strength into power for sports. Because contact sports require strength apart from boxing and UFC. Any sport which has got direct contact, wrestling, as a matter of fact, even WWE is a sport basically, I would say, because they have to lift that athlete and punch him down. So those kind of sports require strength and power. But sports where it's about speed requires more power, because power is nothing but what lifting a weight from point A to point B in lesser amount of time. That's what power is. So it has to be according to the sport, it has to be according to the athlete, it has to be according to the energy systems which are involved in the sport and the demands and the needs of the sport as well.
So how does a typical program look like for a cricketer, let's say? Like, how does a strength and conditioning workout plan look like in a week?
So there are seasons in sports, okay? So there is something called as off season, there is something called as a pre-season, there is something called as a in season, and then there is a transition period. So in season is when you have got the competition, the main competition. The pre-season is a time before the main competition, and off-season is where there are not much of competitions or no competition. So when there is off-season, you gain muscle. When there is pre-season, you transition that muscle into strength and bit of power. When there is in season, you just focus mainly on power development, because that is what you need at the end of the day. It's not about how much you can lift, it's about how quickly you can lift. And when it comes to conditioning, again, endurance is the base for all the sports, and with that you need a high intensity interval training where you can recover between two bouts. So if you're running 2 runs, then you have to again bat. Then again, maybe you run another run, or again 2 runs, then again you have to pat. So that's recovery between 2 intermittent bouts. So you need to work on that. And that is where, there is a concept which is coming into the picture based on like this test known as the yo-yo test. You must have heard. So it's a test which tests your ability to recover between 2 bouts. So that's what they are conditioned for. So that's how it is. And of course, speed and agility is always there in any game. So like even in boxing, you are a boxer. Without agility, you cannot, get away from the punches. Basically,
you can't
dodge the punches.
Yeah,
You cannot defend. And without speed, you cannot be quick. And without endurance, you cannot last 4 rounds. So again, the combination of speed, agility, endurance. So yeah.
Interesting. So it all depends on season, pre-season, post-season.
Season, post-season, and the energy requirements, energy systems, and demands of the sport.
All this while they are working parallelly on their skill.
Yes, and that is where load monitoring, which is the most crucial part in bodybuilding in any sport, is the most important part. Because if you're not monitoring your load properly, your athlete is going to go into an overtraining syndrome eventually, and it can cause a severe injury, or he or she may feel mental fatigue and stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting. All right, coming back to bodybuilding again. So before you even thought of competing, like what made you even think to get on that stage, and like what was that? What point of life that happened?
It's just that once you see results, you feel like you're good at it, and you feel like you're maybe better than everyone in the gym. There's a slight ego to it. Now you want to see if you can actually compete. You feel like you are the most ripped and biggest guy in the gym unless you step on a bodybuilding stage.
Yeah.
Then you get humbled. It's like, no, bro, I need a few more years. Every time I stepped on stage, that's what I felt. And 2 years down the line, I still felt that. So what made me start was just to test myself out, because yes, I'm doing this. Now, one, I wanted to make a career out of it. One, I wanted to establish myself as a good bodybuilder or an athlete in that particular segment. Now, when I started competing, it was purely to make a name for myself and also get clients for my personal training, because at that point of time, that's what people looked at, because this guy is the ultimate pinnacle of transforming himself. He can do it to me as well. Now, two was to test my mental fortitude. It was purely because I am a very distracted person. I'll be honest. I'm easy to be distracted. I can go all over the place. So whenever I felt I needed more direction and discipline in life, I decided to do a competition, and it was more mental for me at that point of time.
It's very interesting because that's where your focus has to be at that time.
Yes, I think we pretty much
Resonate.
share a
Yeah,
similar
yeah.
story, because I've been in that particular phase you're talking about. So even I started. When I started lifting weights, it was all about like my own physique, and then I hit a plateau. Then I was in fact working out at Motesham gym. You know that place. So like there I see proper bodybuilders like who compete, and like a few of them were like, hey, do you want to compete? And bhai, are you sure? Like bhai, tu to leta na gear. Like bhai, like that was like a compliment to me. Someone was saying like, do you take steroids? Like no, but yeah, thank you. But what happened is I did my research. I was like, acha, maybe I should take and start competing. Bolke I did. I even attended. I didn't compete. I went to watch bodybuilding shows, events, and that, like you said, it humbled me. Like nowhere close to that. Like, so then I realized that this sport, if you want to excel, if you want to really make a big name, then there is no option to you but to end up taking steroids.
Correct.
So that's where my bodybuilding career stopped, and I had to make a switch, because firstly I didn't have enough knowledge, so I didn't want to risk it. Secondly,
अब्बू नहीं मानेंगे.
अब्बू को तो बोलना ही नहीं था, पैसे नहीं थे मेरे पास. Like I realized, like if you want to like make have good results, or even basically you need a lot of money. It's not it's an expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when my bodybuilding dreams got crashed, and I was like, अच्छा अभी तो कुछ और देखेंगे बोल के I moved to something else. So I want you to share your experience with this competition life. How was it?
Yeah, as you said, it's a what do you call, a necessary evil. That is what I like to call it, which is performance enhancing drugs. When I say PEDs or performance enhancing drugs, you need to realize that it literally is that they enhance your performance, and that can be anything from how you look versus how you perform. Now, in bodybuilding, as a particular category of sport, your goal is to look the biggest and the leanest on the stage. So you do structure your training around that. You do take compounds that will support that particular goals that you would want to achieve. Now, let's say you want to add more muscle. You take compounds that will help you in adding muscle. Now, is it necessary? No, you can build muscle naturally, but will you be able to compete with others on the stage? Absolutely not.
No,
Absolutely.
no.
Win to bhuli jao, you
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
You won't last one round. So there will be call outs. Like let's say in one category there are 10 people or 15 people standing on the stage. You will have 5 call outs. Like they'll call the top bottom 5 first to just put them next to each other to see. After 5 call outs, they'll eliminate 10 of them. And you will go in that first round. And even I've taken cycles myself. Even at that point, it is really hard because everybody else is also on something. So if you want to make a career in bodybuilding or be even considered as a bodybuilder, it is something that you take. And of course, in some sports, it doesn't show, but it's everywhere.
True.
So coming back to bodybuilding, what steroids does is basically enhance your recovery. repair time of your muscle fiber, keeps you away from soft tissue damage, certain compounds, and then some speed up your nitrogen retention, meaning how much nitrogen you would absorb from the protein. You might be taking a scoop of whey protein or eating 100 grams of chicken, but you might be only absorbing 70 to 50 grams of it. While on gear, the nitrogen retention is higher, you will absorb 80 grams of it.
Okay, so you have to be on certain type of gear to make these particular things happen, or does
well, it does happen with, so you have a base that is your testosterone.
right?
Testosterone के बिना कोई cycle होता ही नहीं है, because all the other compounds are going to suppress your natural testosterone, which is not at all good for you in any way. So you keep your base as testosterone. Testosterone itself is androgenic in nature, and it will retain a lot of muscle, it will boost your sex drive, it will help you gain strength. What's the difference between a weak guy and a strong guy, physically or physiologically, is the test levels. Like if you take somebody from, let's say, 1700 centuries, their test levels were way higher, the average person, versus now, even without any gear. So now you enhance your recovery, you enhance your test levels, you enhance your strength with testosterone. Now you want a little more nitrogen retention. You meant to things called nandrolone peptides or propionate, or a class of steroids that will suppress your test levels but will suck in a lot of nitrogen, and your protein utilization would be better. Your soft tissue damage would be repaired. They are steroids, and they have their own use cases in medicinal field. For example, there's something called equipoise that is basically given to a horse in a veterinary field. Now the humanized version of it is called boldenone. So it enhances your recovery rate, enhances your ADP, ATP production. Your cycle of recovery between the sets would be faster. But why are you using it? What's your goal? Again, that differs. Now, if you're taking that, of course, you expect some side effects. Now, you need to be aware of your blood work. You got to get it done before, you got to get it done during, you got to get it done once you're done. To understand how your natural test was before, how is it on the cycle, how is it after you've stopped taking it. So these things will give you an idea of how your body is accepting or rejecting these things. And sometimes these nandrolone substances that I told about, they increase your prolactin levels, which is a female sex hormone, prolactin and progesterone. Now, if that happens, you're bound to have some gynec issues, gynecomastia, like male boobs, or acne. Then you have DHT conversion, dihydrotestosterone. Excess testosterone that is not being used by your body gets converted into DHT or estrogen, which is the female hormone. So you need an AI, aromatase inhibitor. And this process of conversion of extra testosterone into estrogen is called aromatization, and you need an inhibitor for that. That's another substance that you need to take. So you need to understand it's not taking one compound and look jacked, but if you want your health and you want to do it right, there is so many other details that go into it. And as you said, it will cost you a lot.
Yeah, so testosterone is the hero, and that alone, if you take, won't be suffice. There are other side effects that come with it.
You can actually, you can, but it's a base.
Right.
You can just do that and maybe one oral as your starting cycle. And you need to understand every time you do a cycle, your body gets a little desensitized to it.
I have a doubt here. What does a cycle mean?
A cycle is pretty much stuff put together and run for X amount of time. So 1, 2, 3 compounds that you choose that are going to get you to your goal. If you're bulking, typically, you need something that is longer sustaining. So steroids have half-life in their system. So half-life is pretty much how long does that compound stay
in
binded in your blood system.
Right.
So like in test, you have 3-4 esters. Ester decides how long it stays in your body for.
Right.
Now, there are longer esters that stay for about 7 to 10 days. Then there's a shorter ester that stays for 3 days. And then you have no ester that only stays for like few hours in the system.
I think this is how people get around doping system.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll talk about it.
We'll.
So when I say a cycle, I mean, okay, test is my base. Now I want something like a deca that will get me more out of my protein I'm eating. And put together, they can be a cycle. Now you can match 2, you can put 3, you can put 4, how many ever you want in that cycle. And that cycle you say is going to last for X amount of weeks. So it's like cycling it. That's where the term comes
Okay,
from.
so let's say if I want to attain a certain look, so I would have to take X number of cycles.
You can attain a look in one cycle. Especially if it's your first, your body is like, oh wow, what is this? It's like you drinking alcohol for the first time. Even with one beer, you're gonna go gaga. But you do that enough, you need 10 beers. If that makes sense.
Right.
So
But what you said earlier was actually new to me. Like you said, steroids also help in muscle recovery.
Correct.
Like, but I was under the assumption like steroids are only for aesthetic or looks. Not
So it
really for
speeds up recovery, right?
speeds up recovery.
So,
now,
okay.
let's say you can do 10 sets on Monday for your chest and be ready by Friday for another one off cycle. Whereas on cycle, you might be ready by Wednesday. Your
Okay.
muscle protein synthesis is higher.
Right.
Your muscles recover faster.
But it's not like I would be able to do more reps and more weights on
You can eventually.
You can, yeah.
Okay.
You can eventually. You'll feel more strong. With that strength comes more ATP production. You can go for faster depending on what you're taking. And you can outperform somebody who's not on cycle. But at the same time, you need to realize that these are enhancements to what you're already doing. It's not something you just take and you sit on the couch and expect it to work. It doesn't work like that.
It's not like a spider for a Spider-Man.
Correct. You still have to put in efforts. It's funny, but it's true.
Bro, I just wanted to know what's the usual cycle? Is it 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, and stuff like that, or it varies depending on doctor and the athlete?
Athlete, the goal. How long do you have before whatever you want to achieve? Now, let's say there's now, what is this, January? Yeah. Now, if I decide to compete in September, I have about 7 months.
Yeah.
Now, in 7 months, I break it down into weeks. And I say, okay, for the first 16 weeks, which is 4 months, I'm going to gain some size. So I'm going to take stuff that will help me gain size. Now, while this happens, you also, yes, aesthetics, the question you asked, aesthetics do change, but that also will change if you've trained for 10 years without anything. You might get it in 5 years if you use gear because the muscle recovery is faster. You've trained it more than what you would as a natural athlete.
Right.
There's something called muscle maturity. So how well your muscles recovered from the previous session and how many times you've done that, your muscles just get grainy as fuck. You see people, it's like, that guy is training for a while.
Right.
We both might look same in the t-shirt, but if I take it off, just by how my striations, my muscle looks, skin quality, all these things will determine my experience of just training age. Vascularity, for example, we all have nerves and veins, right? Some people have thicker veins. That's because you've sent blood into the vein for so many times over the course of years, it got fatter and it shows. So some things take time.
Right.
Can be sped up by PEDs.
Right.
Like, for example, your recovery. Instead of doing 1 or 2 sessions of one workout per week, you can do 3. That's where your extra work is coming from, and recover as well.
What's the dosage and the macro and micro? So macro is usually the higher amount. Like do they go till 1000 mg and stuff?
Some people do. Usually it's calculated very precisely by a doctor based on what your body weight is. Now, what is testosterone? It's given to people with low testosterone as TRT, test replacement therapy. Yeah. It was meant for that.
Yeah, that's why it's available in the market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's available in the market, but again, like fundamentally, it's illegal, right? Like
it's for medical purpose, but if you use it for any other purpose, then it's illegal.
If you are carrying it, you need a prescription.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's illegal.
Right.
Just like morphine is.
Right.
You're carrying morphine, you need to know why you're carrying it.
Right.
And same thing goes with growth hormone, stuff like that. When an endocrinologist prescribes you testosterone for your low test, that dosage is usually below 100 mg for a week. Whereas bodybuilders go 250 mg per dose and 2 times a week. That's 500 mg, which is also in bodybuilding terms quite normal.
Oh.
People go all the way up to 1000 mg, 1200, 1500. But you need to understand, like, more money, more problems, more compound, more problems. You need to be very wary of how much test your body is taking and why do you need it. You also understand that you've built a physique on 1000 mg of test. It's not going to stay once you come off of it.
And how does it affect your mental state, like when you're in these cycles?
It's like alcohol, right? Alcohol doesn't make you a good or a bad person. It just enhances who you are. If you're an aggressive person, you get more aggressive. If you're an emotional person, you get more emotional.
That's him.
Same thing with PEDs.
Emotional, not aggressive.
This fellow fucking cries only sometimes after drinking.
With a lot of heartbreaks.
No.
He has so much love, he doesn't know how to
I
express.
think about family and friends, not heartbreaks. Yeah. Anyways,
It's a good way to cry about it. So, with coming back to PEDs, testosterone is the male hormone, is why it's like, you say when people are aggressive in general, that means it's slightly higher on the side of testosterone. Because test itself, women, why are they more emotional during their cycle? Because of the hormones. So that doesn't mean they're always that emotional. When your test is high, either you become an amplified version of yourself or you develop new traits. But there is one thing I would suggest everybody to stay away is from trenbolone acetate. It is a very hard compound. It's 500 times more androgenic than testosterone itself. And trust me, it can hinder your mind thought process. Not as much as you think it would, but the smaller decisions, the small road rage, the slight, impatientness, all these things.
What's that compound again?
Trenbolone.
Trenbolone. I think
It's a very famous compound. Everybody who's done a bodybuilding cycle must have touched it once.
What? How about this one? Dynabol something.
Dianabol is an oral.
Sorry, what? Sorry,
again,
Dynabol is?
An orally induced steroid. It's like a pill.
Okay.
These things are again to be injected.
Right.
So which one is there a safer way to take it?
You might surprise you, but the injectables are very safe than
Compared to
not
oral.
very safe, but safer than the orals because orals get processed through the kidney.
Right.
And the liver. So you gotta understand that you need liver support. Like something like a Liv 52 or a milk thistle.
Yeah, I just had this thing. Bodybuilders are like, of course, they eat a lot of non-vegetarian foods and they've got high in cholesterol, and testosterone is made from cholesterol.
Correct.
And they're getting in a lot of test as well through injections and orals.
Yeah.
Is that one of the most primary reasons they suffer a lot of heart attacks?
Yes and no. Heart attacks can be also because of, there are things like your muscles grow, your organs also grow. So with higher doses of test or higher doses of, or prolonged doses, some people, it's also very addictive. You'll feel like a Superman on it and you'll feel shitty once you come off of it. Because you're taking test, you're stopping signal to your testes that I'm getting testosterone from endogenous sources. I don't want you to produce it. So it's going to shut down for as long as you're taking it from an endogenous source. And the worst part is it doesn't realize once you've stopped until a while. So that transition period where your body will start producing its own test again will make you feel like a very messed up person. Imagine yourself, we might judge women on how they behave when they're on a cycle. That will be you once you're coming off of a cycle. So PCT, post-cycle therapy, is very crucial. There's something you just don't it might recover in 3 months, 4 months. But with PCT, it might do it in 1-2 months.
Okay.
So do they take a lot of follicle stimulating hormone during that?
HCG, yes. Follicle stimulating hormone, what exactly do you mean?
So like the hormone which, signals the testes to...
it's pretty much HCG.
Yeah, HCG.
Okay. So this is a part of that program.
PCT.
PCT, yeah.
So it is basically made out of pregnant women's urine.
Yeah.
It's dried powder form of it that will stimulate your follicles, LSH and FSH, LH and FSH. So these things are in your testes that will determine how much testosterone you are producing, your body is producing. So every compound has its own pros and cons, and understanding. So I've always felt people know what a compound does to them or what it does for them, but they don't know how the compound acts inside them. So they say, okay, dianabol say I will retain a lot of protein, nitrogen. This I'm telling you now. But all people know is I'm gonna get bigger. For everything, they all realize is this is a cutting cycle, this is a bulking cycle. If you ask me, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Cutting or bulking is purely your calories.
Yes, true.
But there is a misconception out there.
Yes.
कि cutting में ये सब कुछ लेना है.
No, there are things that you typically take during a cut because of other reasons, which is water retention. You will expect a lot of water retention with things that are longer esters. They are softer in nature because they stay in your system for a while. You don't need to keep pinning them. But at the same time, they'll hold water, which you don't want during a cut. The trenbolone acetate has also another ester called enanthate. The enanthate stays in your system for 7-8 days, but it's not as potent as the acetate version. The con being this is much harsher on you, and you need to pin it every second day, third day for it to be active in your system.
And what about this now? Once you take the endogenous testo, your testosterone to cortisol ratio is going to be short.
Yeah.
So how does that affect a personality of a human being, I'm asking?
It definitely does. And
What was the ratio? Sorry.
There is a ratio known as testosterone to cortisol ratio, which gives you whether you're in an anabolic or a catabolic state. So higher the cortisol, you're in a catabolic. Higher the testo, you're into anabolic. So muscle building and muscle breaking, muscle loss. So naturally we have to be in an anabolic state, but with natural orientations. But when you put in testo, you're already in anabolic. So that's going to have side effects. So
I'm not exactly sure about the science, but I think the question you asked before, testosterone, cortisol is synthesized from it. Yeah. But that happens with the help of, I think, triglycerides. So when your body produces natural testosterone, it is synthesized through the adipose tissue.
Yes.
And that's why strong men or powerlifters, they get their strength from being fat.
Yes.
But taking endogenous test is directly being binded into your SHBG.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I don't think it acts the same way with cortisol as it does if it's a natural testosterone.
No, but I'm asking the anabolic state is going to get increased. So how does that affect the personality basically?
As I said, it just amplifies who you are. It just who you are. If you are an aggressive person, you should definitely stay away from higher doses of test and definitely stuff like trenbolone. But also, I think you get used to it. I remember from my own personal experience that the first 2 times when I tried test, I took it in the morning and in the evening itself, I felt it.
Felt it how?
Road rage, bro. It was as simple as that. It was small things that were pissing me off. I was hungry. I was mad. My towels were put somewhere wrong in the room. I was mad at the maid. Stuff like that you don't realize. You'll see, why am I behaving a little weird? I was not like this 2 days. It's trenbolone. It makes your heart rate goes up. It's not just your mind, your heart rate goes up. You're in a naturally aggravated state of mind all the time. So you're hyperventilated, you're easily triggered, you're easily controlled by your own brain. So you gotta make sure and be conscious, like how you're conscious when you get drunk that I should not drive or I should not fight with people in the club or outside. You should be conscious when you're on such things that my emotions should be in place. And usually there's another recipe to disaster. When people take trenbolone, it's because usually they're nearing a contest and they're very low carb. And low carb itself is very
dangerous.
And add these things to it, you're gonna have a mess for yourself.
That's a
Interesting.
big fuck up, basically.
Originally was saying that taking this care, like these compounds, like there is a case where people might consume female hormones and later on have man boobs and stuff like that.
It's not consuming. It's
Right.
excess testosterone that you take
Okay.
that gets converted because it's not being used
Okay,
to estrogen.
right,
So that's when excess estrogen will give you man boobs.
right. So they need to be calculative enough to know what
Correct.
the right amount is.
Exactly. So
Right.
if you're a skinny guy, you don't need 500 mg of test. You can do with 200 mg, 150 mg and still get decent results. And if you ask me, I would never personally go above 500 mg myself. And that's the reason why I also had to drop out of bodybuilding myself, because forget being natural, even enhanced, to compete or win with them, I have to be on the doses that they are on. No matter how much I train hard, eat right, be dedicated and disciplined, they still are on higher doses.
So there's going to be a humongous gap, basically.
So, but also, let's say you build muscle on 200 mg of test. Let's say you decide to do a cycle. You will not grow as big as I would if I take 1000 mg. But let's say both of us come off. You will keep most of the gains that you gained than I would. Because the gap from 0 to 200 is lesser than what it is from 0 to 1000. And I'm going to have a big major crash from 1000. So people, if you're smart, you won't go 1000. You'll start with 100. Then your next cycle will be 200. Then your next, when I say cycle, you do it for 4 to 6 weeks or 16 weeks and do the PCT and take the same amount of time off that you've been on. That's a very general rule of thumb. And then you do another cycle. So that's what a cycle means. Some people are on gear throughout the year. They say, I'm on this cycle. Bro, you're not on cycle. You're just on gear. Your whole life.
What's up with those
more
people? Like, why do they
addiction.
do it?
Like they're addicted to
Addiction?
Yeah.
You don't want to feel weaker. You don't want to feel skinnier. When you're on gear, you see bicep veins popping out. You're dry. Your water retention is low. It's a different feeling. You feel like God. And once you come off, it's not like that.
Like it's like you were lifting 100 kg yesterday and now you're lifting 50 kg. Why the fuck I've lost 50 kg? Simple as that.
No,
And
that's
that
a bad
itself
feeling.
is
to have.
demotivating when you take a time off in the gym and you get back and you feel shitty.
Yeah.
You can't lift the same weights. It's 100 times worse than that.
Yeah, we can't
Because you
even
didn't take
imagine.
time off. You're still working out and you still feel shitty.
Right. Oh my God. I can't imagine that. Shit. But yeah, coming back to the side effects, especially the roid rage part. So you were saying like initially when you took, you were feeling that.
Yeah.
But later on, were you able to adapt and?
Of course, I think it's both mentally and physiologically also your body will get adapted to it. The more you do it, again, I'll give you an example of alcohol itself. First time you won't handle it, 10th time you will better. Same thing with this, your mind will get tuned to being in that aggravated state and you consciously know that, okay, I'm taking this is going to happen. So be a little more calmer and you'll manage your stress better. And to answer his question, if I want to keep my testosterone to cortisol levels low, don't do it when you're going through something.
Yeah.
You only run cycles when you're hyper focused on something for that particular phase of time. You cannot have external stress, cannot have external, issues going on with you. And that is only going to make it worse.
So like I was going to just talk about that. It's like never take any cycle during if you're feeling depressed or anxious. It can, being very honest, it can lead to a suicide or death as well because you are not in your control. It's basically like alcohol, but it's way worse than alcohol, man. So I've not taken because I'm not a bodybuilder and stuff. But it's basically like the researchers and everything, whatever I've read, it's pathetic.
But I think the existence of these testosterone compounds happened because of to treat depression, breast cancer, and shit.
Not really. There are different compounds for different uses. Something called oxandrolone, that's the medical term, but the street name is Anavar. I don't know if you've heard
Oh,
of
I
it.
heard of Anavar.
Anavar is given to kids with asthma issues and muscle wastage.
Yeah.
Muscle wastage.
Muscle wastage. They don't. They lose a lot of retain muscle.
Retain
As
muscle,
kids, they're very skinny. They don't put on muscle. They have a lot of neural issues and all of that.
Okay.
And then there is equipoise. As I said, it's given to horse and veterinary. And then there is test which is given to low test patients. Then there is DECA, which is given to in sports injury. It's given in one particular site for that tissue to heal.
Yes.
I've seen powerlifters tear their pecs off on the bench. This all blue and red. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
Just spin
yeah,
it there and the tissue gets recovered. So each has its own use case, and then they use it for performance. It's like it's like you're taking paracetamol for a headache. It's not for headache, but it will fix headache.
Especially the main use is not performance. The main use is to treat the issues.
Yeah.
But then we are indirectly involving it into performance, and we are
If you see the over-the-counter testosterone that you get in a medical shop is very different from what they sell underground.
Yeah.
How?
And the constitution of the compound itself, it is very pure medical grade, but that is going to impact your free testosterone, total testosterone. This one will also impact how it binds with your SHBG. It is more binding to the whole system, to put it in layman terms, so that your recovery and performance benefits are there. Equipoise, it's given to horse, but if you take it, you're going to have a big swelling. You're not going to be able to move. You'll feel a fever. That's why it's humanized in a different reconstitution. It's the same compound humanized and sold as Boldenon.
So taking steroids, is it like a do-it-yourself kind of an approach, or do you need to do it under supervision?
Ideally, you should be doing it under supervision because you need endocrinological knowledge to understand all of this. I'm talking all of these things, but if you ask me to link things, I might not be the best person because I'm not a doctor. I have not studied it. I have studied endocrinology textbooks as much as I need to understand it for my own use case.
But people do it by themselves.
Most people do it by themselves. Nobody, it itself is expensive enough, but now to add another doctor who watches over your blood work, tells you how much to take, is not many people would afford that.
And not many doctors would come forward to do it because it's not legal.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
They're going to turn you down. They'll just blatantly say, no, I'm not going to help you.
Oh.
Interesting.
Oh, I thought this was done under supervision.
It is, but you need someone who's a doctor from a bodybuilding background who's willing to do these kind of coaching.
Right.
There was one guy from Delhi I used to stay in touch with, but he was very expensive. So before I did any cycles, I just spoke to my friends who were doctors. And of course, they gave me a class like, why do you need that? Why do you need this? Like, bro, just give me information. I want to understand endocrinology. Then I just kept extensively reading till it's still a lot of pieces of puzzle I had to put together before I even dared to try it on myself. So you do have people, and there are experts that will guide you with the cycle who are into medicinal field, but in India it's less. If you go to the West a bit, maybe even Middle East, you have more facilities. In fact, there are clinics that will do this. The TRT clinics itself there have few doctors that will support you for if you want to do a cycle for bodybuilding purposes.
What can go wrong? Like, let's say if you're not doing it, if you're not injecting it rightly into your body, like
if it's purely the injecting part, it's IM, intramuscular injection. If you pin it under the skin, you need to realize most medicinal injectables are water-based.
right.
So it's fine even if you misinject it, but these are oil-based. So you need to understand that it gets clogged in one place, and if it's not fully dispersed or not secluded inside, you will have infections, you will have swelling, you'll just have fever, the site dies, like the tissue all around that dies. It's not a good thing. And doing it the right way is also how you take it, where you take it. You should not be hitting it on your nerves, or else you're going to have something called a trend cough, which the compound directly gets absorbed into the bloodstream and it'll hit your lungs because the blood also goes into your lungs and you'll start coughing. And this one time I had a bad experience. I thought I'll die.
Oh,
it's
man.
that bad. It's like somebody has cut open your lungs and there's just lit it on fire.
And you dealt with it. Like,
I didn't know what it was, but I knew I did
Like how
something
long
wrong.
was the suffocation? Like
About 15 minutes.
man.
I just lied down on the bed.
So usually like they inject in the glutes and the more of a muscular area so that these things can be avoided. But then again, if you are injecting by yourself, it's
Yeah,
bit
you need
risky.
to know there's a place where you gotta
Yeah.
find and inject without any nerve endings.
yeah, because nerve endings is a very critical
Yeah,
thing.
yes,
Like,
yes.
Absolutely.
Everything can go wrong. Like
Correct.
if at all you're puncturing a nerve. Yeah.
Exactly.
So there is a reason why a doctor injects in your glutes because that's most of the nerves and blood
muscle.
supply is there and the muscle is there. Most importantly, he barely injects in your shoulder. So yeah.
Interesting. So one last point about steroids in bodybuilding. So we've been talking about cycles. So is there any other way to take steroids apart from cycling? Because I've heard from like few years ago from the research I've done, what I remember is people do like a cocktail kind of thing, stack up multiple drugs at the same time. Like what are your
As in,
thoughts? Cocktail ante mixture.
No, see, when it comes to the definition of cycle, as I said, it's few things put together. That itself is a cocktail. And the cyclic process of running it from week 1 to week 12, then coming off. So that is what exactly a cycle is. Or sometimes, we've spoken about steroids, but there are another class of drugs called peptides. This is where your human growth hormone comes into play. Or your insulin comes into play.
IGFs and stuff.
IGF, insulin growth like factor, or GHRP, growth hormone reciprocating pulse. So all these things are not as potent as PEDs, but they still will enhance your performance or recovery or something. But they don't need a PCT per se. They don't.
Are these the same kind of supplements like that people take, to increase their height or their bones? Or
It's what do you mean drink?
not drink. I'm saying some people like who want to increase their
Lionel
height.
Messi, when he was a kid, he had a growth hormone deficiency problem. He was given growth hormone. So he grew to whatever he is
He
now.
is right now, yeah.
But if you take it as a normal human being, you're gonna secrete more growth hormone. Your bones are gonna get dense. With growth hormone, it doesn't necessarily affect your muscle, but the stem cells around it.
Yeah.
So your stem cells that are around the tissues is what gets amplified. So necessarily your progress might be slower when compared to a testosterone cycle, but it is more safer, not safe, and also lesser hassle to run a cycle.
So there is something called as acromegaly, something like that. I forgot the pronunciation. So that is where when people have got lots of HGH in them, human growth hormone, they have got a big face and stuff. Have got long fingers and they look weird because they have humongous. For example, the great Khali from the WWE, he's a best example for this particular thing because if you see, he's abnormally huge.
Is that not like genetic?
Yeah, it can be genetic, but usually I'm talking about people who are supplementing. For example, if the doses go wrong, it's usually genetic only. But if someone is supplementing, then this can
Genetically,
happen.
also he has more growth hormone naturally without taking
Makes
stuff.
sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Also, one last thing I wanted to ask. You were talking about swollen muscle or whatever. So, what's the difference between these steroids that we were talking about and Syntha? It's very abnormal.
So
I've seen those
basically, synthol.
synthol.
Synthol is nothing but oil. It's like, let's say women, right? They have Botox or implants. They're not actual tissue. They're just implants. It's a male version of an implant. You're just pumping oil into your muscle to make it look bigger. But it's not actual muscle fiber. It's just inflating your muscle fiber with oil inside. So if that makes sense.
Like abnormally, people will have like big shoulders.
balloons
alone,
like-
like,
Yeah.
Everything else is normal, but only shoulders will like look this big
Oh,
or
yeah,
biceps will
I've
look.
seen a couple of Latin Americans do that shit.
yeah.
True, exactly. So that is
Brazil side
simple.
just said
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. It's as simple. You take a small, surgery knife and you slice it through. It's all gonna pour out.
Yeah.
So that's not natural. That you can't put that under the class of steroids. It's something else.
I
It's
don't even understand those people who take it.
pointless.
About sorry.
The only I was saying that there's a actual use to it where bodybuilders take is they don't push all of that in.
Yeah.
They inject that right under the fascia
Yeah.
to push the muscle slightly higher, but you will never notice it because it's a small portion of oil right under your fascia. That's the right way to do that. Not right way, but the only way to do that. But these guys have abused it.
Like there is something called as clenbuterol also. It's not a performance enhancement. It's not a steroid. You can say it as a drug, which basically burns a lot of fat. And a lot of people, it's given for asthma patients.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it.
You must have heard about it. And a lot of actors and these guys take it in order to burn fat in like this amount of time. But then again, it has got hazardous issues, man. It increases heart rate, blood pressure, gives anxiety and stuff. And there have been cases where people have shown up dead basically because of that. Because the heart rate just shoots up, let's say it's 100 beats per minute. It goes massively, doubles 200, 250, something like that. You may die. So
You'll have hot flashes with it.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing that most people miss from clenbuterol is it depletes taurine in your muscles. So you'll cramp out really bad. And that's also reason why on clen you might have heart attacks. Because in the end, heart is a muscle. And if it cramps, you're gone.
Oh my god.
So that's another thing which it's just this much of a pill, white color pill. And yeah.
You're talking about celebrities. Like, do you think celebrities in India are on and off of these under supervision?
Of course. Under supervision, now that's a question. Maybe their trainers is the maximum supervision that they get. Or if they're smart enough, then yes. Some people, Amir Khan is a really great actor.
Yeah.
For
Amir Khan for
Dangal.
Gajini.
Dangal. For Dangal, he had somebody from the States because he had to first get jacked, then get fat, then get jacked again. He had to do it very meticulously.
I think so. He had that guy Jeff Cavalier. I think so.
Cavalier.
Yeah,
He was for training. He has no knowledge on any sort
steroids
of,
and stuff. Yeah, he's against it. No, I was talking about
Was
training.
is this information public? Like that he took steroids?
not really
Maybe
public.
not. Yeah,
Maybe
but
not
maybe
public.
Okay.
But it is obvious.
Like for people who know
understand
stuff,
fitness, it is
know.
You
obvious.
cannot lose fat, that much of fat in that short amount of time, and that's what I feel.
It's 40 days. And imagine you're 45 years old. Now that's the question.
No, he was more than 45. Like
He was 45, 50 years.
50, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
It's not possible.
40 days reducing from that fat guy to the ripped guy.
Your test is anyway low at the age of 50. Doing it at 25 itself is hard. Now 50, not possible.
But like if the films are being funded with pumped with so much money, so I always thought these people are doing under supervision and how lucky they are. I felt, but yeah, now
And they also made a good video of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, supervision, yes, to some extent they will have because, of course, they have the funds to do it. Now, sometimes the trainers themselves are the supervisors because now I know, I'm not going to take names, but I know a few actors here in Tollywood that still do some cycle just by their trainer. They don't need somebody. Even though they have money to spend, they won't. So it's yes and no sort of a thing.
Got it. So yeah, what I wanted to ask Rushil again is, this is what I've heard. You have to say if it's true or not. So I've heard bodybuilding mein the amount of the dosage is higher than when compared to other sports, like when you take steroids.
Correct.
How true is it?
It is true because in bodybuilding, there is no restriction. If you're stepping on stage, they're not going to test you for doping. If they do, there's nobody on the stage.
Yeah.
So there is no restriction, there is no fear of being disqualified. So it's sky's the limit if you have the money.
But why are they not checking people if they're doping or not?
No one will watch bodybuilding if there
Bodybuilding
are no
has never
steroids.
exactly. Bodybuilding has never been without steroids ever since the start of the history of its sport. Initially, when in 1930s or even 1900s, when it was a taboo to actually look like you have muscles, even naturally. Like a strong man, he was looked at as a specimen in the society. It's like this guy is supposed to be in the front lines defending an hour.
Right.
So when it got to a place where it was more sort of a beauty pageant, a more aesthetic thing, by that time itself, when people started them it came in with steroids. Arnold, Franco Columbo, those who laid down the foundations, they themselves were on gear. So imagine this, even Dana White and I think Joe Rogan on their podcast have discussed this. They actually want to make UFC fully non-tested thing, because imagine what kind of money they would bring in if everybody is enhanced and they're like these superhumans. You're coming to see superhumans and you know it, that they're on gear. So it's more exciting.
But right now they're actually checking people if they're doping or not.
On the paper, yes.
On paper, yes.
On the paper,
every sport
everybody's...
had, like, superficially there are tests done, but we don't know how much of it is genuine.
Is this the case with boxing also?
That the expert has to tell us.
So
So yeah, tell us more about how different the usage of steroids in sports as opposed to sport of bodybuilding is other sports. कैसे use करते steroids, like?
first of all, in any sport apart from bodybuilding, steroids are illegal. You cannot use them because they are performance enhancement drugs. Okay, and another important factor we need to understand is a steroid is a different aspect. It's basically testosterone when we're talking about a steroid, and when we talk about peptide hormones like HGH, it's more of a PEDs, we can say, to that. So we have to differentiate between this. So there are two associations. One is a national association, one is a world association, which tests your doping system. So there is WADA, World Anti-Doping Association, and there is NADA, National Anti-Doping Association. A National Anti-Doping Association is for India and WADA is for the world. And you will be amazed, India is in top 3 when it comes to doping.
Top 3 as in...
Top 3 nations when it comes to
using steroids.
This I didn't know.
India is one of the most prominent doping nations in the
No,
world.
it's doing a good job.
What's the first?
I think so.
one?
It's Russia. I am
Not
not very
surprised.
sure
Second?
about it. Second, I really don't know. Maybe
I think
Yeah.
it's a Balkan country, either Serbia or Germany.
yeah,
they
probably
use a
from
lot.
that, yeah, but India is there, and that's a very
Third. Wow, I'm
bad thing.
surprised.
Because the reason over here is lack of knowledge, and every country dopes. It's just that they have got better access to the doctors and stuff, and they know how to, जा सकते हो.
So we
कोपचे
being
में
on
से.
the third position is basically we are lacking methods to get away with doping. That's why we are there, right?
One thing, and other thing is,
And again, that is only the data that they're able to collect.
Yeah.
And it's not the actual data.
Correct. And also, as he said, the access to doctors and facilities is much higher outside, but the availability of stuff is more restricted. Here in India, every gully mein ek jagah mil jata hai where you can score that stuff from. It's easy to get it underground because restrictions are obviously lower in India, lesser in India. Everybody has access to it, but nobody has the tool to do it the right way.
Right.
the biggest factor which I feel is we cannot compete with better nations, and I think so athletes want to compete with better nations, and that's the reason they're on steroids. And what he said कि हर एक गली में मिल जाता है, and that's the most important thing because accessibility ऐसा है तो वो होगा ही. Now when it comes to sports, first of all, let's lay the foundation. It's illegal. You cannot dope. If you're doped, you're caught. And if you're tested after every win, you get tested. So like if you win an Olympic gold medal, you get tested immediately. And if you're caught in that, everything is ripped. Okay. And now there are different ways of testing. So certain hormones are get tested via urine. Certain hormones get tested via blood test. So I think so testosterone is blood, and I think so HGH is in urine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that way. And now the most interesting fact is physiological sports में testosterone क्यों use होता है, because it develops your force. It helps in muscle building, as he said, and that's the main thing. But it develops your force production capability, and it is the only hormone which it can act with the central nervous system. No other hormone acts with the central nervous system. And in high intensity sports such as sprinting or boxing or weightlifting, central nervous system is the game. If your CNS is not firing, you cannot lift a weight or you cannot run 100-meter sprint. That's the reason people dope. Of course, recovery is there for production, but that's one of the main reason why people dope. And there have been many cases in India as well. I'm not going to take any names, but there have been many cases in India where people have been caught. And recently there was a competition in Delhi. And I think so all the winners just vanished after winning the competition. Just vanished. Because everyone was enhanced. So they just won the medal and no one was there at the medal ceremony. Because they know that they're going to get caught. So that's the thing. Now the interesting thing is people dope in skill sports also, where in cricket you don't need force, man. You don't need to run at 10 seconds for 100 meter. There is no need on it. So the question that is why do they do is because there are lots of injuries in that sport, and you want to recover from an injury as quickly as possible, and you get doped. Very famous cricketer Shoaib Akhtar was banned because of this thing. He doped and he got, I think so, year ban. Because he got caught. And there were other, I think so, Muhammad Asif or someone, he also doped. And
so these people doped for recovery purposes.
Yeah, so there was, I think so, injury. So Shoaib Akhtar always was a knee patient. So he had a severe knee injury since the start of his career only. So he had to take injections all the time before a match to remove the water from the knee and, to play the match. And then there was a severe injury and he doped and he but again, that wasn't for performance enhancement, that was for recovery. But then again, it's against the WADA and NADA rules, so he got a ban. The worst part is Russians. Russians are known for dopings, and that's the reason you will never see a Russian contingent in the Olympics. They come under some other name, United something. USSR, yeah, something like that. They come under some other name because that's where the eye is all the time for the Olympic Committee, because WADA is very strict nowadays. And they test like hell lot of times nowadays because they know that these guys are prominent in doping. And again, so the side effects are same as what are there for bodybuilding, but the doses are going to be on a very lower side because they don't have to enhance that much of performance. Okay, they don't have to show the body. They don't have to grow a bulky chest like from, let's say, 100-pound chest to 200-pound. Just giving you a context.
Got it.
It's over here is how they can win a sprinting. So that's why they dope, and it's that way only. But should we do all countries do it? Probably yes. Everyone do all athletes do
probably,
it?
Or
probably
is it
yes. Like
definitely.
I cannot say definitely, but it's probably only because we never know. We don't know whether they're purely talented and they're doing it or what their training regimes are because we haven't done it. In India, where I've worked, no one does because we have got strict standards for some companies and organizations. They've got really strict standards because even the creatine and proteins which the athletes get are supplied from a organized dealer. You cannot have outside that because in creatine and protein also there are a list of substances which are not allowed by NADA and WADA, banned substances, and if they are found in your blood, though it is a creatine which is an allowed substance for example, but you are again and the bans are like 4 years, maybe a Olympic cycle ban and like that, so it's a hefty ban, and plus you have to pay a hefty fee. And considering India and Olympic sports, the money is not there currently. So paying that fee is difficult. So that's the situation. And
if so, according to you, most of our Indian athletes are not doping. So if that's the case, then how come we are?
No, I didn't say most of them. I say the organization which I've worked for. So the athletes which I know.
Okay.
They cannot. And I believe because the organizations are so strict with them.
Because you're working mostly with the private sector.
Yeah.
Not with the government.
It's not about the government also. The
No, I'm
government
not
is
saying
also...
the government is colluded. I'm just saying that the scrutiny is high with the private entities.
Yeah, and the athletes, see, most of the athletes, which are Olympic sports athletes, they train individually. They don't have organization to go to. Okay, so they don't have a sports authority of India giving them the money and the facilities to train with them. So they train individually. Like, for example, you are a coach. Like how you are going to your coach right now. So they train in that manner. So we don't know what happens back scene. And that's how the doping system happens in India. And that's the most vicious part, is that it's 99.9% I'm sure that it's unsupervised. And yeah, that's the issue.
I mean, if it's unsupervised, then the chances of getting caught will be high, no?
Yeah, of course. It's the chances of getting caught. See,
Like,
getting caught.
like, why I didn't get that? Like,
See, if you're an athlete, if you don't have supervision and you're doping, you don't know hell about how to cycle.
okay.
Like, you have to make sure that when the test is done, when the doping test is done, your system should not be showing that. So
If you
should
remember,
have-
I've discussed about the half-life
Yeah.
of the
Right,
compound.
right.
You need to choose compounds based on that timeline when you'll be tested and what will be shown, what sort of tests to be done. These things.
And so the major things which are used in sports is, of course, testosterone is used. For endurance athletes, they turn towards EPOs, erythropoietin, which is formed in the kidney, I think so.
for endurance.
Yeah, because the erythropoietin, what it does is it increases your blood,
Viscosity.
No, the plasma which carries oxygen.
Oh, okay.
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin. Yeah. So basically, that's what EPO does. And the world famous EPO tragedy was with Lance. No, what was his?
Lance
the cyclist.
Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong, the cyclist. Yeah, who won 7 Tours de France.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't get caught during that tenure. He got caught later.
Later. Oh, this one I saw this
Yeah.
documentary. Have you watched Icarus?
No.
Oh, it's about this. only.
Okay.
Yeah, it also showcases how Russian weightlifting team, or basically
Russians.
Russians and Olympics, Russian Olympics only, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
They
The Winter Olympics, which happens over there.
Basically,
so
they're doping and they're also masking it. Yeah.
the way they got around is they switched their samples, their urine samples, and they dug a hole in the wall and they switched it with some negative sample. Crazy untadu.
Because that doping test doesn't happen by telling you. You won the medal and you're going to go for doping. The first thing you do after winning a medal is go to a dope test. Because that's the primary role of the Olympic Committee. It has to be fair play for all the athletes who are participating in in those events. So that's the reason performance enhancement drugs is a big taboo in sports. You cannot do it and get away with it if you're caught.
That being said, it's a known fact that there is still doping happening, no?
Yeah.
Like people who are winning medals,
Yeah.
like if not all, I mean, like frankly, all of them are doping, people who are winning medals. Let's say weightlifting, for example, like for a physiological sport like that, you know for a fact that they have to dope in order to win a medal.
Yeah, being very honest, I feel China, that is a very big example, because China suddenly came into the picture of medals. You know, before a long time ago, like I think so 40 years back, China was nowhere close to the US when it comes to the medals. Now they are bloody dominating the Olympics. They are always there on the top 5, top 3, whatever it is. So, of course, the race over there is also very different. They're not black, brown, they are yellow, which is a very different race altogether. But then again, doping, there is going to be doping in the Chinese culture, because they have got so much of facilities, so much of science, which is very developed over there, so much of tech. And that is a very big example over there. So yeah.
So the doping happens even in Olympics too.
It happens.
Right?
It happens. But now it has become very less, and athletes have understood that it's not the right way to go. So most of them, I would say, have stopped going towards that zone. Because now, see, I'll tell you, back in the days, let's say 90s or the 2000s, there was not much of tech. There was not much of knowledge on nutrition and the conditioning and stuff like what it is today in 2025. You get so much of tech to enhance your performance that you can run like Usain Bolt. If you have got good talent And if you've got the right guidance, you can run like Usain Bolt. You can do the weightlifting thing like all those legends out there. Okay, because of the advancements in tech now, you have got all the tech necessary, man. You get timing aids which are going to time you or your runs. You get the velocity trackers which are going to track the velocity at which what the bar you are lifting. You get everything, every possible thing which you need to enhance your performance naturally. The nutrition for elite athletes is up to the mark, man. Up to the mark. They get all the protein needs, creatine needs, carbohydrate needs, fat needs. Everything is met properly. There is no deficiency in vitamins and stuff. If there is a deficiency, it gets sorted out very quickly because there are consistent blood tests. There are consistent nutritional tests and everything. So a prime athlete, for example, let's say Neeraj Chopra, he must be testing his blood every 2 months or 3 months in order to understand what the deficiencies are. He must be with the proper nutritionist all the time. Like, itna protein jana hi chahiye, itna creatine jana chahiye. This is your creatine cycle. Because as testo cycles are there, creatine also has got its cycle. You cannot directly start taking creatine with 3 grams of creatine per day on day one. There is a certain way to do it first. There is a loading phase, then you go on the maintenance phase, then you deload it, then again you load it. So it's that way. So everything in India, at least, everything is in proper line in order to enhance performance naturally. And the same goes for countries abroad, because I would say US, Australia, New Zealand, UK, China, Japan have got way more facilities, way more tech than us. And for sure, there may be certain cases where they are enhancing, but nowadays with the current gen, I feel they are not going towards the enhancement picture because they've got all the facilities to, improve their performance naturally. They don't need any superficial thing to go.
And even with recovery, I think the BPC 150, have you heard of it? It's a peptide that I'm not sure it's legal or not, but most athletes openly use it. And it's actually prescribed by wellness centers that also do glutathione. So it's not a steroid. It's a collagen peptide induced something. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just speculating here, but it does not fall under the category of steroids. It's not as potent as what a Deca does to your soft tissue, but it will help you rebuild your tissues. So even for that particular aspect where most athletes used to use, they don't have any reason now.
Yeah.
With the, as he said, advancement of technology or new medications coming into the market, I think without the use of doping, now athletes can get all those benefits.
All those benefits. Because now even caffeine, I think so, WADA and NADA have stopped.
Seriously?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know exactly, but there was certain news that maybe caffeine is going to get out of the picture before utilizing. But that's again another edge which you get, because some of the athletes are caffeine intolerant. They cannot have caffeine. So what would they do? If I'm caffeine intolerant, you have taken caffeine, you have got a bit of a benefit over me. So that's again not a fair practice. So that's what Olympics is, like a fair platform, or any sport as a matter of fact is a fair platform for all the athletes and the players to come play at an equal level in terms of physiology, not in terms of skills, because your skills and my skills are going to be way different. Your boxing skills, you can knock me in a punch. I can knock you maybe in 10 punches, but I'll knock you still. So,
Fuck me, bro.
So yeah, that's how it's there in sports.
I formed an opinion about doping and all through a guy called Clarence. He's an American weightlifter. Have you heard of him? So Clarence, so he himself was competing. So I'm not sure if he did Olympics and stuff, but he was on steroids and he was competing. And after a point, he stopped competing and started making content while still lifting weights. So his content, it's very popular, his views on doping system and all. So what he says is, no matter what, you can't detach steroids from sports.
True.
Yeah.
At any given point.
True.
So when you say even play field, so attempts to create even play field will always be there. But at the same time, this guy's Clarence point is, while that's there, if we stop attempting to do that and put all that money, instead of putting that money in anti-doping, why can't we put that money in producing safer steroids and make
absolutely.
athletes perform better in a safer way. Because his argument says there is no way that we can detach steroids from sports. And I think that applies with bodybuilding for
It
sure.
absolutely makes sense.
I agree.
And yeah, so what are your thoughts on it?
See, my thought is, I agree with him. It's true, but then again, we have to see the level what sports have changed. So I think so in the 1995s and 1990s, the 100-meter gold medal was at roughly 10 seconds. Okay, then Usain Bolt broke the mark and he ran 9:58. Okay, but now the 100-meter gold is at roughly around 9:60s, 9:65s. Okay, it's not even close to what it was at that time. So look at the advancement. And I'm for sure that as compared to today, at that time, there was more steroid usage because it was not that strict as compared to today's time. And at that time, there was not facilities also to test that much. Just believe Lance Armstrong got over the EPO things and won 7, and after that, after so many years, he got caught because there was no system in order to test the EPOs properly. So they took his blood sample and they preserve it over a 5-year or 10-year period, so that when there are new advancements, they test again. So and then he got caught. So just look at the advancements at that time and today's time. So that's the reason I say what he's saying is 100% true. It cannot be completely neglected. But then again, what natural sources we have right now as compared to 10 years back are way more advanced. And I personally believe, and I've seen it with my eyes, I've trained so many athletes by my own hands that I know that with the advancement right now, what we have in tech, coaching, science and everything, there's no need of external sources to come and, enhance performance.
So we can enhance performance through safer ways.
The safest way, I would not even say the safest way, because taking a creatine is way more
So
safe.
it comes down to basically countries or athletes who have access to this kind of technology.
Yeah, it comes down to that.
So can you name few technologies that enhances performance?
So nowadays there are various techs such as a timing gate, where there are 2 tripods, one at the end lane and one at the start lane. So if you run through that timing gates, you get to know what is the timing of your sprint, and that is accurate than a stopwatch, because when you are on a stopwatch, there is always a plus minus 15 seconds error. Okay, 0.15 seconds. Sorry, 0.15 seconds error plus minus. But here it's very accurate. So you know exactly at what intensity you need to complete that 50-meter run or 100-meter run. Then in the gym, we have got lots of tech such as a VBT training. You must have heard about VBT. It's a velocity-based training. You must have heard about it. Yeah. So VBT is basically a tracker which tracks the velocity of your lift, how fast you are moving. So when you're talking about developing power, it's about how fast you are moving as compared to how much weight you are lifting. So we get to know at what meters per second that bar is moving, and accordingly we can tell whether the athlete needs to increase the load or increases or speed, and that's how you do. So this is just 2 examples. Then there are a lot of therapy treatments in order to enhance recovery. So there is ultrasound, there is this shock therapy, there is a lot of access to massage therapists and stuff nowadays.
Cryo is there.
So cryo is there, sauna is there. So all these are good therapy options which are accessible and for those athletes. All right. So now let's understand a bodybuilder kills his muscle in order to develop that muscle. These guys don't kill their muscle. When I'm talking about not killing, it's like these guys push their limit, man.
Close to fatigue, basically.
Not
That's
close to
how.
fatigue, beyond fatigue.
Yeah.
Beyond fatigue.
These guys are bodybuilders are insane. I really respect bodybuilders and these power lifters like Eddie Hall and stuff. Man, those guys you need to have some kind of craziness to go into that particular sport, because every time you step onto the field in order to give your best, you may kill yourself. Eddie Hall lifting 500 kgs is not a joke, man. Watch his documentary. His wife and him were always sad whether I'll come back from a training session or no when he was going to lift that 500 kgs. It's ridiculous. These guys don't need to be there. As I told you previously, that their goal is to improve their performance on the field, which is the sport. Over there, you don't need a big chest. So you don't need to push that much. Even a 50 kg power clean with maximum velocity, let's say, for example, a 2 meter per second velocity is way more superior to these guys because that's their goal.
Right.
So the natural thing is much more into the system now as compared to 10, 20 years back. Of course, I'll not deny that there is no doping. Of course, there is doping still. and a lot of unsupervised doping, which is the most hazardous part. But then the natural thing is there now. It's a lot more than what it was previously.
Speaking of which, I recently happened to enhance my own performance through a natural medium. So Aitreya, my boxing trainer, what he made me do last week is he asked me to punch the bag for a whole minute, like power punches, and for the next 30 seconds, he wanted me to headbutt the bag. So all I had to do was just like a madman, bang my head against the bag. So I did that for a couple of rounds and I started feeling like a superhero. Like I could sustain that for 10 whole rounds. That was what he prescribed. 10 rounds ke baad, I was not tired, not a little bit of exhaustion also. Like the whole day, I had that high. I came back in the evening, I worked out, I still had that high. So I asked ChatGPT, what's up, what's going on with me? So it's like basically because of those concussions, because of that head banging, I had concussions, and because of the concussions, my body released adrenaline.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, basically that's my body way of telling me that okay, now you are in some danger, you have to save yourself, so take this adrenaline bulk. Yeah, so that does this method come under one of those natural methods?
Yeah, because why do you warm up? Why do you warm up? In order to release the adrenaline, in order to open those muscles and stuff. But the main reason is to release the adrenaline, to make your body realize that no, now you have to lift
Ready.
You
to
have
get
to get
yourself ready for something.
Okay. So that's the reason we warm up. And that's how you release the adrenaline. There is something called as an interesting theory which is known as post-activation potentiation. Are you aware of it?
Not really.
Okay, so post-activation potentiation is something which triggers your central nervous system, and it is done before a match or before a main like this thing. So it's basically lifting a damn heavy weight, which is like close to your 1 RM, maybe 2 RM, 3 RM, and then pairing it up with a light fast weight or a body weight exercise, which is explosive in nature. So for example, you lift a damn heavy squat, half squat, and immediately you go for some jumps, for example, broad jumps. That's going to trigger your central nervous system, make it active. Okay, so this is something done with elite athletes. They do it, and even with non-elite athletes as well. For people who train under good coaches and stuff, because they know these techniques. So these are small allowed methods which can give you the edge. But then again, this is fair play because everyone can do this. It's just about knowledge.
Right.
So yeah, that's adrenaline plays a crucial role because it's your flight or fight hormone. Because the body has to be in a ready stage. The sympathetic nervous system has to be active if you want to perform. You cannot be in this zone. You have to be ready. So yeah.
Another method I've seen you using is the altitude mask.
Yes.
I think that's the
Altitude
most
mask.
natural, simple way for you to create more oxygen demand in your body.
Yeah, of course.
And these oxygen chambers also are there, no? Like in the market.
So there are altitude chambers and stuff, which, where I was working previously, so there was this room where they had a treadmill, rower and a cycle, and it was a hypoxic chamber where the oxygen level was low and the athlete was running in it. So now when there is hypoxia, you get lesser oxygen. And once you come out in the natural oxygen, you have got better breathings and you have got better, the hemoglobin has got more oxygen to carry to the muscles. So yeah.
Have you ever fought with, you didn't yet, but you'll understand how different it is to fight someone from Mizoram or Manipur.
Oh.
They're gonna go on, bro. They're not gonna
I've
stop.
seen Mizoram people. They're like quite crazy. Like
No, because they stay at altitude, na?
yeah, pahadi.
Pahadi.
Once they come down, it's fun for them.
Yeah. So I did CrossFit with my friend. His name is Sandesh. He's a pahadi. So the way he eats also is quite crazy. So he can eat my 3 meals put together. He can eat it in like 15 minutes, but he won't get hungry for the rest of the day. Maybe during the night he'll be hungry once, but for me those 3 meals have to be like
Spaced out.
every 2
yeah.
hours or something like that. So then I realized, acha, so all this matters a lot. And the way he trains is also like that. He has crazy endurance for his body weight. His endurance is crazy. His strength is crazy. Like, oh my God.
So marathon runners do this trick. So before their, I think so the acclimatization phase is only for 15 days. You get the advantage for 15 or 20 days, something like that. Once you come down, you have got only 15 or 20 days in your hand to, get that advantage. After that, your body gets adapted to the normal weather. So marathon runners and all those endurance runners, they go at high altitude.
Yeah.
Okay, they train at the high altitude to get the advantage. They come down, they run the race, and then they're back. So this is another. But again, these are natural ways of enhancing performance where there is no unfairness over here.
There's no
Everyone
tech
can do it.
involved as well. Actually,
Right.
if you look at it, there's no tech involved.
Yeah,
as
no
well.
tech involved as well.
Not
Yeah,
much,
and it's very safe. Simple as that.
So these advancements, as we evolve as human race, will what make us leave behind doping.
Yeah, because-
eventually or hopefully is what we are saying.
See, I'll tell you one thing. There was no lifting culture in India. Okay, like 10 years back. Now, he also, when you did, I don't think so, you must have come across some
Yeah,
courses
yeah.
and stuff
Never.
in 2008, 2009, 2010. Even with the data last to last year, the CSCS, which is the examination which strength and conditioning coaches do, in India, I think so, there were 73 guys who have just passed CSCS. There's so many guys I know who are preparing for it, but only 70 to 75 guys have passed that exam and are currently working as CSCS professionals. So that is the situation. So there is not much of the right science and the right coaching patterns to these athletes and to everyone, not just athletes, to everyone around you, to give you the right guidance to ये मत करो ये करो इससे ये होता है इससे तुम्हारा ये development होगा and stuff like that. So yeah.
How do you train athletes? How do you support them psychologically?
That's a
Do
very.
you prep them psychologically? Is that your is one of your jobs to do?
Yes. Now, we as strength and conditioning coaches in an athletic scenario, okay, in a high performance center scenario, are an athlete's closest friend. Okay, we are in a lot of shoes. Okay, because the athlete can share anything with the strength and conditioning coach. He or she cannot share that with the main coach or the physios or the masseurs. Okay, so we have to create that kind of a friendly vibe. Okay, so we are often in a zone where we have to give them a basic idea of this should be a mindset and don't think about this, or give them a basic solution, because that's not our primary job. There are sports psychologists who are well trained to do it. Because nowadays, what do you think? Just a basic thing. How many staff support members are there with a cricket team, or how many people do you think they go? Just give me a guess.
Like each player, the entire team.
Man.
Close to about 40 to 50.
No, the support stuff I'm asking about.
Okay.
15, 20?
Yeah, roughly around that. So you get a sports nutritionist, you get a chef, you get a sports psychologist, sports biomechanist, sports kinesiologist, sports doctor. So there is a different sports doctor as well who treats only sports injuries.
Yeah.
You get a physio, you get a strength and conditioning coach, you get a mental coach,
A mobility
pediatric.
coach. Someone for mobility and flexibility,
Yeah.
stretching out.
So it's not that deep in India right now, but abroad with NFL and NBA, you have a massive staff.
You
behind
need a
man.
specialist for everything.
They have a massive staff, man. They have kinesiologists, biomechanists, they have sports scientists, they've got a physio, they've got a masseur, and even with masseurs, they've got a female, male masseur, they've got a recovery specialist. Then there was a position recently which opened for this conditioning specialist. So it's a massive team which goes behind a coach, and psychology plays a very crucial role, because I believe when you step onto the field, your strength, power, physiological aspects are one thing, your skill aspects are another thing, but how do you mix them up and perform is where your mind comes into the picture. Why I love Rafael Nadal. I'm a big Nadal fan. Why Rafael Nadal is, he has been down in so many situations, but from there he fought up. I still remember his 2022 Australian Open, 2022 or 2021 Australian Open final. He was down a match point, okay? I think so. He was down 2 match points, and from there he won the final against Medvedev. And that's a big thing to do, man. That's a humongous thing to do. So these guys have got mental toughness.
But do they train it intentionally?
Michael Phelps, the best example. When he won one of his Olympic medal, his goggle came out. So he was blind. So he visualized that scenario hundreds and millions of times in his mind. And when that scenario happened with him, he was ready for it. So that's how they train. So there are various techniques such as visualization, then there is systematic desensitization, then you've got mind trainings and stuff like that. So there are various tricks and tactics which the psychologist gives you to, develop your mind to understand those situations. But mainly visualization is the primary thing which these athletes undergo. And I think so you must be also going through
It is something similar because you, even if you want to transform yourself or look a certain way, you need to visualize what you want to look like. You can't just see a picture on Google and say I want to look like that.
Yeah.
You need to understand with your frame, with your sort of the muscle that you currently hold, where you need to head. It's bodybuilding is visualization. It's like, how do you look on stage? How do you look in pictures? What sort of growth do you want in your triceps or your delts or whatever that can be? So it is a crucial part in visualizing, I think, in anything.
So even everyday life also we visualize a lot of stuff, but then there is a trick and tactic to actually get that into your real life.
Implement it in the sport is a big deal.
Not just sport, in real life altogether.
Cool, man. Interesting. You have anything to add?
I had a lot to absorb.
All right, I
Very
think
interesting,
we'll
though.
end the podcast here. And thank you so much. I mean,
pleasure.
I've always respected people who took steroids because I know that I didn't have the balls to take steroids in the first place. So I respect people who took it because they had the guts to do it, and to come out of it is even harder. So respect that, man.
I mean, I'm very fond of bodybuilding, powerlifting as sports and these guys have got the guts to do it, and most importantly, they don't have a choice.
Correct.
That's the most difficult part. He doesn't want to be on steroids, but he doesn't have a choice.
Exactly.
So that's where the
True.
Now, that's the reason why I've stepped out of the game, right?
Yeah.
Now I made the choice not to put that
Continue.
in my body anymore because I've done it. I've known it. If I want to go ahead, I need to do it more. So either give it your all, don't it all. That's how all sports is.
Right.
it's very high risk.
Cool. It was amazing talking to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mihir.
Thank you, Mihir.
Thank you.